Chapter 742. Where did she go? Could it be that she had become a coward because of her guilty conscience? The war on Weibo was at its peak for a while. Yan Bingqing's troll army was aggressive and wanted to turn the situation upside down. Some of Yun Shirshir's loyal fans could not help but waver in this chaotic situation. From their initial determination to wavering, and then to Yan Bingqing Studios' bombardment of press releases, they gradually became suspicious. In the end, many fans who were not determined enough listened to Yan Bingqing's PR statement and immediately ran to Yun Shirshir's Weibo to create a ruckus. This war of words fell into a tense atmosphere for a while. Yan Bingqing browsed through the war on Weibo. The current situation was leaning towards her. While she was pleased with herself, she also felt a little uneasy. There was no movement at all from the 8 major media under Huanyu. It was dead silent. She felt that there was something fishy about it. Was the short silence the calm before the storm? Yan Bingqing's worries were soon confirmed, because she found that her Weibo account had been blocked. When she tried to log in again and again, she was depressed to find that her account had been blocked by the website's operations. Blocked? She was not the only one. Even the other people in the studio had their Weibo accounts blocked and could not log in. Mo Yen called the website's operations team and asked to restore their login rights. In the end, he was told that the operations team did not have the authority to restore their login rights. No authority? Mo Yen was stunned. What did that mean? It meant that the ones who blocked their accounts were the higher-ups of the company. This meant that Huanyu had started to take action. One after another, the troll accounts hired by the studio were also blocked and could not log in. Mo Yan's expression was extremely miserable. The other people in the studio started to look for various channels. However, they found that not only Weibo, but also many well-known forums and communities, their login rights were also blocked. In the evening, the official Weibo account of The Green Apple posted a long post. The post was a few thousand words long, and it revealed that Yan Bingqing had acted like a big shot in the crew, sneaked into the crew, requested additional scenes without permission, and maliciously ostracized other actors and actresses in the crew. In the end, the crew unanimously decided to kick Yan Bingqing out of the cast for violating the crew rules. Her role would be given to another actress from Huanyu. This decision had already been approved by the investors. Yan Bingqing's role had been replaced. Once the announcement came out, it immediately caused an uproar. This also meant that Yan Bingqing was officially removed from the cast. Moreover, the official announcement on the film crew's official website seemed to confirm that Yan Bingqing had slapped Yun Shirshir. Huanyu also began to take action. The 8 authoritative entertainment media under its control blocked and removed the defamatory articles released by Yan Bingqing Studio. At 7 p.m., Huanyu's official Weibo suddenly posted a video online. It was a video edited from the master tape taken at the scene. The title was very clear and eye-catching. It pointed out that Yan Bingqing had ostracized newcomers in the crew. In the slapping scene, Yan Bingqing had maliciously NG'd and slapped Yun Shirshir until her eardrum perforated. Apart from the video, there was also a diagnosis issued by the hospital. There were a few names on the diagnosis. External force caused perforation of eardrum, subconjunctival hemorrhage, mild concussion. Chapter 743. In the video, Yan Bingqing slapped Yun Shirshir 6 times in a row. Her eyes were vicious, and each slap was extremely powerful. There were a few times when Yun Shirshir fell to the ground in a sorry state. Yan Bingqing not only did not help her up, but she also pursed her lips and snickered secretly. Her sinister and vicious look was completely different from the goddess image that she usually created in front of the public. The netizens watched the video several times, but they did not see any arrogance or haughtiness from Yun Shirshir toward her seniors, unlike what was rumored. On the contrary, she was very respectful to every member of the crew. Even if Yan Bingqing came up with all kinds of ridiculous excuses to deliberately NGs, she would still sincerely apologize to the director and the cameraman and thank them. She was a very humble and polite person. On the contrary, Yan Bingqing's performance during filming was completely different from the way she usually acted in front of the public. She was rude, unreasonable, arrogant, and acted like a big shot. Her ugly face was suddenly exposed in front of the netizens, causing them to be filled with righteous indignation. The netizens could not accept the fact that the truth of the matter was so disappointing. The goddess in their hearts was actually such a vicious person. Yan Bingqing's ruthlessness was hard for the netizens to accept, but they also saw her true colors clearly. Yan Bingqing's die-hard fans were even more furious when they saw the video. The beautiful and gentle goddess in front of the public in the past had actually used such a ruthless method to bully a newcomer. The truth of the matter shocked everyone. In their disappointment, they instantly turned against Yun Shishir and resolutely stood in her camp. On Weibo, Tieba, forums, and other websites, the Yan Bingqing slapping Yun Shishir incident was also on the top of the headlines. For a time, this incident caused a huge commotion and everyone knew about it. The other artists in the cast of The Green Apple, led by Gu Xianxia, were the first to repost Huanyu's Weibo and express their stance. I'm heartbroken that such a thing happened in the cast. There are such black sheep in the entertainment industry, which is why the entertainment industry is so foul. My heart aches for Shishir. Although Shishir is a newcomer, she is a senior and is very friendly to everyone in the cast. I hope that Shishir can rest in peace and return to the cast soon. Heart. Gu Xianxia's Weibo had just been posted, and the number of views reached a new high. Gu Xianxia's fans immediately left comments in support of their idol. Then, Yang Mi, Li Jiuxian, and other artists also reposted Weibo to support for Yun Shishir's position. Jun Emo also. A certain A-list female celebrity is too much. He slapped him 16 times in a row, until his eardrums perforated. No matter what grudge she has against Shishir is my god. Shishir is my best friend. Shishir, my best friend. How come I didn't know about those groundless rumors about Shishir acting like a big shot? Don't think that you can clear your name by slandering others. Jun Mo played a male character in The Green Apple and received the attention of many fans of the original novel. In addition to Jun Mo's fan effect, this Weibo post was quickly reposted more than 10,000 times. Chapter 744. Not only that, but Yan Bingqing was also domineering in the production team. She ordered the staff and extras around, and even looked down on many actors. One actor even proved that Yan Bingqing ostracized Yun Shishir because Yun Shishir's popularity on Weibo had already surpassed hers. Hence, she was jealous and even took it out on Yun Shishir's assistant. When Yun Shishir saw that her assistant had been scalded, she immediately argued with Yan Bingqing. She was not afraid of Yan Bingqing's threats and asked her to apologize to her assistant. Yan Bingqing and Yun Shishir became enemies because of this and bore a grudge against her. Once the news of Yun Shishir offending Yan Bingqing for protecting her assistant was exposed, the netizens immediately praised her character. At the same time, many netizens dug up Yan Bingqing's dark history since her debut. Yan Bingqing's 10 deadly sins quickly became a trending topic. Han Yuyen cried after being scolded by Yan Bingqing. 818's top 10 female celebrities who were often bullied before their fame. Yan Bingqing's unspeakable secrets behind her fame. Yan Bingqing's unspeakable secrets behind her fame. Meng Xiao and Yan Bingqing caught having an affair under the dining table. Rumor of Meng Xiao keeping Yan Bingqing as a mistress. On Zhihu, a netizen even posted a post to dig into the matter. Yan Bingqing, the queen of bad movies. Why is this kind of star who specializes in bad movies so popular? Netizens of all kinds left comments under the post, digging up Yan Bingqing's dark history. When Mo Yan browsed through the post, his face turned green with anger. He couldn't help but sigh. Yan Bingqing's popularity in the entertainment industry was particularly poor. All along, she had relied on the strong support of a big financial backer behind her and never put other stars in her eyes. She had also offended many female artists who had worked with her before. Among them, the conflict between Han Yuyen and Yan Bingqing was especially big. Previously, when the two of them were filming a movie together, there were many rumors that they did not get along. It was said that the two of them already had a grudge against each other. The reason was that Yan Bingqing had used her resources to cut out many of Han Yuyen's scenes in order to steal the limelight. Because of this, many entertainment reporters took pictures of the two of them together. Han Yuyen stood next to Yan Bingqing with a dark expression on her face. This time, Yan Bingqing had lost her power and fell into the water. Naturally, Han Yuyen's studio would not let this matter rest. They kicked her when she was down and released an announcement to trample on Yan Bingqing. Han Yuyen even posted on Weibo, saying, "Such things are common in the entertainment industry, but this is the most overboard. It's good that it's exposed. Otherwise, if she continues to be so arrogant, who knows how many more victims there will be." Once Han Yuyen's Weibo post was released, netizens immediately dug up that before Yan Bingqing entered the entertainment industry, she was a famous bar hostess who was supported by several financial backers. This dark history was soon confirmed. A netizen claimed to be a rich second-generation heir. Before Yan Bingqing debuted, she was a bar hostess in his city's Xintiandi bar. It was said that she could sleep with a famous black fungus for 500 yuan a night. Yan Bingqing's unbearable past was soon exposed on the internet. Mo Yan could no longer sit still. He immediately called various channels to request permission to open their accounts. This time, however, Huan Yu's ban was unprecedented. No matter how much Mo Yan begged, no one was willing to help him. Chapter 745. F***CK. At this time, Yan Bingqing still dared to drag them down. Whoever stood on Yan Bingqing's team was clearly going against Huan Yu. Who would dare? Even if he ate a bear's heart and leopard's gall, he wouldn't dare to make an enemy out of Huan Yu. If Huan Yu wanted to ban someone, no one would dare to stop them. Otherwise, whoever wanted to help them would be banned as well. Only a lunatic would stand on Yan Bingqing's side. Yan Bingqing immediately went to Yang Shouqing. Regarding this matter, Yang Shouqing was really helpless. In the mainland's market, his words never carried much weight. Even if he had some status in the mainland, he did not have the final say. His backbone was in the Hong Kong market. Now that the Hong Kong film industry had declined, he tried to shift his focus to the mainland. He wanted to invest in Huan Yu and get a share of the mainland market. But Huan Yu did not give him a chance. Moreover, he knew in his heart that if Mu Yazhe wanted to ban someone, he did not even have the chance to plead for them. In Mu Yazhe's eyes, Yang Shouqing's face was not worth a few cents. Yan Bingqing cried in front of him. Her helpless look made his heart ache, but the most Yang Shouqing could do was to promise her that he could arrange for her to develop in Hong Kong. When he said this, Yan Bingqing was completely hopeless. She had hugged the wrong Buddha's feet. While she was feeling hopeless, she was more afraid. She was afraid of Mu Yazhe. How powerful was this man? In just one night, he had completely pushed her to the bottom of the valley. There was no room for struggle at all. What magic did this Yun Shirshir have to make so many people rush forward to protect her? Mu Yazhe was one. Gu Xingze was also one. In her heart, she was also secretly regretting. If she had restrained herself a little back then, she would not be in this situation now. But there was no medicine for regret in this world. At this moment, Yan Bingqing wanted to go to the hospital to beg for Yun Shirshir's forgiveness, but she could not even take a step through the door. She was deeply aware that perhaps her entire life had been ruined. It's all over. In the past few days, Weibo had been bustling with activity. However, Yun Shirshir's Weibo, the other female protagonist of the incident, was cold and cheerless. She didn't even make a statement. Many netizens felt sorry for her and guessed that it was because she was injured and hospitalized that she couldn't stand up and express her opinion. In fact, under careful nursing, Yun Shirshir's injuries had healed and she had been discharged from the hospital in advance. Mu Yazhe was worried that Yun Shirshir and Yun Tianyu would be upset if they saw the rumors circulating on the internet these few days. Hence, he made arrangements in advance for the family of 4 to head to a private island for a vacation after settling the overall situation. Yes, family of 4. He liked this term very much. It felt very warm. It felt like home. Yun Shirshir was completely unaware of Mu Yazhe's intentions. Originally, the doctor had said that she would only be discharged in 3 days. In the end, she was suddenly on vacation. When she reacted, all she saw was a boundless blue sea in front of her. Seagulls kept skimming over the sea level, making retching sounds, but they were quickly drowned out by the sound of waves crashing against the shore. The boundless blue sea seemed to be connected to the sky at the end of the sea level. Yun Shirshir had never seen such a blue sky before. It was so clear that it was not tainted with a trace of impurities. Because of this beautiful and pleasant scenery, the haze in her heart for many days was instantly swept away and swept away. Chapter 746. Mu Yaja bought it 3 years ago and opened up a road on the island. He spent a year building a castle on the island. The castle had a private helipad. It was a magnificent sight. When Yun Shirshir walked into the retro and luxurious castle, she was greeted by 2 rows of maids with respectful smiles on their faces. Everything in front of her turned her worldview upside down. She thought that places like castles were for the nobles and royalty to live in. What was the saying again? Money could make the devil turn millstones. Yu looked at Yun Shirshir's astonishment and felt a little indignant. What was a private island? He could buy one. Mommy seemed to like this place a lot. Yu pondered for a moment. Should he buy a private island for Mommy, too? The scenery here was not bad. An island should not be too expensive. It was hard to buy Mommy's happiness. Mu Yaja brought them here for a vacation out of the blue. One who was unaccountably solicitous was hiding evil intentions. At this thought, Yun Tianyu sized up the man warily, suspecting that he had ulterior motives for this trip. Mu Yaja looked at Yu's indignant face and quickly understood what he was thinking. He exchanged glances with Xiao Yichen. The tacit understanding between father and son made the little lad understand at once. Hence, he walked forward, hooked his arm around Yun Tianyu's shoulder, and smilingly asked, "Little brother, let's play beach volleyball, shall we?" Yun Tianyu coldly rejected. Xiao Yichen's eyes darted around before he covered his mouth and snickered. "Are you afraid that you can't beat me? How can that be? Do you think you can beat me with this level of skill?" Although he knew that the other was trying to provoke him, Yun Tianyu was still unconvinced. "You're obviously afraid of losing face to me. Sports are my forte. You're far behind me in this aspect. Let's compete. I'm not afraid of you. Come on." Xiao Yichen tauntingly hooked his finger at him. Naturally, Yun Tianyu was indignant and rubbed his palms together. He took the bait. Xiao Yichen stepped forward to grab Yun Tianyu's hand and pulled him away. Before he left, he didn't forget to turn back to give Mu Yaja a thumbs up and mouthed, "Daddy, you can do it." "Well done," Mu Yaja mouthed back. The 2 little lads disappeared in an instant. At this moment, Yun Shirshir was standing in front of a mural, looking at it in a daze. Mu Yaja walked over, put his arm around her shoulder, and rested his chin on her shoulder lazily. "Do you like it here?" "I like it." Yun Shirshir's eyes were bright, and she couldn't hide her amazement. "Do you know? This is the first time I've seen the sea. Never seen it before?" "I didn't have the chance to see it before." Yun Shirshir pursed her lips and looked at him sideways. "This castle is so beautiful. Can I take a look around?" "Of course." Mu Yaja gently held her hand and led her to the 2nd floor. There were a total of 3 rooms on the 2nd floor. Among them, the 200-square-meter bedroom came with a separate bathroom, cloakroom, and living room. The retro Rococo style was used to decorate the room. It was dreamy. Lying on the soft princess bed, she could not help but have the illusion that she was in a castle in a fairy tale. Unbelievable. Every girl had a princess dream in her heart. Not every princess dream could come true, though. Chapter 747. It's so beautiful, just like the ancient castles in fairy tales. The castle was huge. Excluding the attic, there were a total of 5 floors. It was unbelievably huge. According to her estimation, it was more than 5,000 square meters. This was just an estimate. In fact, it might be much more than that. There were magnificent arches and beautiful wall lamps. Walking along the long corridor, through the clear floor-to-ceiling windows, one could see the breathtaking beauty of the beach. Yun Shirshir stood in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows and looked at the endless sea. The waves rose and the clouds surged. The sea reflected the sky, and the sky covered the sea, forming a line. It was magnificent. She took a deep breath. Even the air was so fresh. It was the first time in her life that she breathed in such pure air. Yun Shirshir suddenly realized the true beauty of this world. Mu Yaja stood behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, encircling her in his embrace. He lowered his head to look at her bright smile, which was gentle and moving. The softest part of his heart was mesmerized by her smile. Is it beautiful? Beautiful. Xianxia raised her smiling face, her eyes reflecting the blue sky. Wuxia couldn't help but kiss her forehead. In his heart, the most beautiful thing was her eyes, which were looking at the beautiful scenery. So beautiful. She couldn't help but ask. She was really curious. Why did you suddenly have the idea to bring me here? However, he said, isn't it good to take a vacation and recuperate, away from all the troubles? Vacation, what a luxurious way to put it. Xianxia sighed. But this is indeed a good place to take a vacation. If you like it, this place will be yours in the future. Xianxia was stunned. What do you mean? I'm giving this island to you. Do you like it? I don't want it. Xianxia said, this is your property. It's yours. I don't want it. Isn't what's mine also yours? Wuxia said matter-of-factly, not allowing her to refuse. What are you talking about? Xianxia, I'll give you anything in this world that you want. My everything is yours. Xianxia couldn't help but widen her eyes in astonishment. Wuxia lowered his head and gently sealed her lips. His thin lips pressed against hers and he smiled. Then he announced domineeringly, you're mine. After saying that, he deepened the kiss. Xianxia smiled. Her face blushed and she pushed his chest. However, the man did not allow her to explain and grabbed her little hand that was causing trouble, not allowing her to resist. He carefully used his tongue to trace her lips, seriously and lightly kissing her. Even for a moment, he didn't want to separate. They held each other's hands and helped each other in times of need. Only now did he understand how wonderful it was to kiss someone. The tips of their noses were touching, their skin was touching, and their lips were touching. It was as if they wanted to ignite the lust that he had deliberately hidden in the bottom of his heart. Xianxia let him kiss her. After so many times of training, she knew how to respond to his kiss. The tip of her small tongue licked his lips gently and quickly retracted. Like a naughty kitten, she licked him as if she was expressing her goodwill. Wuxia enjoyed her careful response. Hence, when she licked his lips again, he quickly sucked on it and took the opportunity to pry open her lips. He penetrated deeply and gently swept through every inch of her lips and teeth. Her orchid scent instantly hit him in the face. It smelled so good. For the past few days, he had been with her. They used the same brand of toothpaste, shower gel, and shampoo. Chapter 748. He liked this feeling very much. He liked that every part of her body had his scent. Gradually, he did not want to reject just a kiss. In the past few days in the hospital, he did not touch her in consideration of her injury. Even when he kissed her, it was just a light touch. He had not been intimate with her for a few days, so he missed her body. As Wuxia kissed her, he tentatively held her hand and led it to a certain part of his body that was glaring covetously at her. It was as if he was sending a secret signal. The burning sensation from her fingertips was so clear even though it was separated by clothes. Xianxia opened her eyes in shock, only to meet his deep and serene eyes. There was no need to hide the lust in his eyes. Hey you, Xianxia blushed, but she did not know what to say to him. She did not know what was in this man's mind. This man? He had just gotten off the plane, and how energetic was he? Can't you think of something else other than this? Wuxia answered, no. Could this guy be any more self-righteous? Mommy, Xianxia's anxious voice came from not far away. Xianxia and Wuxia were both startled. The voice came from the staircase, and they immediately rushed over. When they reached the staircase on the second floor, they saw Xianxia standing at the top of the stairs with Yun Tianyu in his arms. He was sweating profusely and looking anxious. When he saw them rushing over, his voice was filled with uneasiness. Mommy, little brother, I don't know what's wrong with him. He seems to be having trouble breathing. Yun Tianyu was carried in his arms. Chen was taller, so Yun Tianyu was a head shorter than him. Being carried in his arms, Yun Tianyu looked so petite and boneless. He was so light as if he could be blown away by a gust of wind. Yun Shishir's heart skipped a beat. She saw Yun Tianyu curled up with his hands clutching his chest as if he were about to suffocate. His breathing was rapid as he gasped for air. His little face was abnormally red. Beads of sweat rolled down his face and dripped onto Xiao Yichen's hands. Xiao Yichen lowered his head to look at Yun Tianyu's pained expression. His face was filled with guilt, and his eyes were filled with anxiety as if he were about to cry. "Mommy, mommy," Yu let out a weak cry for help. Every time he said a word, he would have to gasp for air. Stunned, he could not form a complete sentence. Mu Yaja furrowed his brows. This was his first time seeing the child acting up. It was excruciating. Ordinary people couldn't imagine such pain. It must be very uncomfortable to be unable to breathe. This child, Mu Yaja was shocked. He suddenly recalled the doctor's words when Yun Tianyu was hospitalized that day. This child's condition is very bad. Because he was born prematurely and didn't absorb enough nutrients from his mother's body, his body is already weak. The best way is to undergo surgery. However, the child is still young, and surgery is very risky, so it's not recommended. Currently, we can only use medication to stabilize his condition. Hyperventilation was a physiological reaction caused by acute anxiety. When it flared up, the patient would feel his heart beat faster, palpitations, and sweating. The patient could not feel his breathing, so he breathed faster. As a result, carbon dioxide was excreted and the concentration was too low, resulting in respiratory alkalosis and other symptoms. Chapter 749. Yun Shishir immediately went downstairs and walked to Xiao Yichen's side. With just one look, she was certain that his old illness was acting up again. Bring him to the bed first. Lie flat or help him sit up. Dyspnea syndrome, when acting up, would cause suffocation and pain in the heart, causing the person to subconsciously curl up. However, the more this happened, the harder it was for the person to breathe. The person had to lie flat or sit up to relieve the symptoms. Yun Shishir wanted to take Yu from Xiao Yichen's arms, but the butler, Uncle Qiao, who was dressed in a tuxedo, quickly stepped forward and respectfully said, "Madam, let me do it." Madam. This title caught her off guard, but she could not care less now. The butler brought the child to the bedroom. Yun Shishir found a paper bag, hugged Yu's shoulders, and passed it to him. She was so anxious that she could not speak. Yun Tianyu still had a sliver of hope left. He took the paper bag from Yun Shishir's hands, covered his mouth and nose, and took deep breaths. Mu Yaja pursed his lips and looked helplessly at Yu's pained expression. He asked, "Is he suffering from an old illness?" Xiao Yichen was guarding Yu by the bed. When he heard Mu Yaja's question, he immediately turned to Yun Shishir with a puzzled look. "Mommy, what's wrong with little brother?" Yun Shishir calmed herself down and immediately comforted him. "It's all right, Xiao Yichen. Don't worry." With that, she looked up at Mu Yaja. "Where's Yu's luggage?" "I brought medicine, and the medicine bottles are in his luggage." Before Mu Yaja could speak, the butler, Uncle Qiao, stepped forward and said, "The luggage has been put away. I'll go get it right away." "Sorry to trouble you." "You're welcome, madam," the butler said politely. Then, he immediately turned around and left the room to collect the luggage. Although Yun Shishir comforted him, Xiao Yichen still felt guilty. He didn't know that his younger brother had such a serious illness. I wonder what kind of chronic illness it is? At first, they were playing volleyball. At first, Yu was a little unhappy about playing with him. However, Xiao Yichen was afraid that he would disturb his daddy and mommy's private time, so he immediately provoked him. Yu was naturally unconvinced and played a few rounds with him. In terms of sports, Xiao Yichen was much more talented than Yu. Yu was naturally no match for Yu. However, Xiao Yichen went easy on him. He tried his best to maintain a tie between the two of them. Gradually, Yu realized that Xiao Yichen was obviously going easy on him. He was unconvinced and his competitive spirit was aroused. Usually, he didn't have many friends and rarely played with other children. He didn't have any friends his age. It was his first time playing a game, but Yu was smart and quickly familiarized himself with the rules. The sun was a little hot. Especially since it was near the beach, the sun was unobstructed. The sun shone directly on the skin. Although Xiao Yichen had applied sunscreen on Yu Yu, after a few rounds, he felt his heartbeat accelerate and his stamina gradually weaken. The gap between the two of them gradually widened. Yu Yu was unwilling to give up. It's the last round. Whoever wins can sleep with mommy tonight. Xiao Yichen suddenly said. Yu Yu looked unhappy and said, No. Are you afraid of losing? Yu Yu said angrily, It doesn't matter if you win or not, you can't sleep with mommy. Mommy is mine. Mommy will sleep with daddy. Chapter 750. Mommy will sleep with daddy. No way. Yu Yu's face suddenly turned ugly. Why not? Because, he pursed his lips in anger, but he did not know how to explain himself. Gritting his teeth, he suddenly tiptoed and sent the ball out with all his strength. The ball flew high over the net and deviated from its trajectory. Xiao Yichen returned with the ball, only to see Yu Yu in a strange position on the beach. He initially thought that this guy must have not exercised for a long time, so his stamina was weak. However, when he saw Yu Yu's pained expression, Xiao Yichen panicked. He saw him clutching his chest with both hands. His handsome features were contorted in pain, and he looked as if he could not breathe. He was in extreme pain. His body was curled up like a small shrimp with his back arched. Xiao Yichen hurriedly carried him and nervously entered the castle. Yu Yu's eyes were tightly shut as he held a paper bag over his mouth and nose. Yun Shishir guided his breathing rhythm from the side. Yu Yu obediently followed her lead and adjusted his breathing. Finally, his symptoms eased a little. Uncle Qiao brought the luggage over. Yun Shishir took out a bunch of bottles and jars from the luggage. Xiao Yichen was dumbfounded at the sight. Could it be that all these medicines were taken by his younger brother? Was he sick? But Xiao Yichen's gaze fell on the bed. He looked at Yun Tianyou's face, which was gradually regaining color. He clearly looked healthy and did not look like a sick child. Yun Shishir took out a small medicine bottle and put in a few first aid pills. She walked to Yu Yu's side and placed the medicine in his inner pocket. Yu Yu, on the other hand, looked calm. It was as if carrying first aid pills was a normal thing. Don't you need to take them now? Mu Yazhen knitted his brows. His symptoms have eased, so there's no need. These medicines are for emergencies when I'm not around, Yun Shishir explained. Is it that serious? It's already much better than when he was young. Yun Shishir smiled and looked at Yu Yu, who was holding the paper bag and taking deep breaths. When he was young, he had frequent relapses. Now, his symptoms have eased a lot. The doctor said that it's best if he can undergo surgery now, but Yu Yu is still too young. There's a high risk of surgery now, so we can only control. Mommy, why is little brother like this? Little Yichen, who was beside her, gently tugged at the corner of her clothes. He was determined to find out what had happened so that he could be more careful in the future. She felt that her younger brother was as fragile as glass. If she didn't take care of him carefully, he would shatter. Is it because I pulled him to play volleyball, so it's not that? Yun Shishir squatted slightly and held Xiao Yichen's shoulders. It has nothing to do with playing volleyball, and it's not Xiao Yichen's fault, so baby, don't blame yourself. If I didn't play volleyball with him, perhaps things wouldn't have turned out this way. Xiao Yichen looked at Yu Yu with a worried face. Yun Shishir explained in the simplest terms. His illness is related to his weak heart. If he exercises vigorously, it will easily cause his heart to palpitate. If he's agitated, it will lead to respiratory problems. Agitated? Chapter 751. Could it be that he was too excited when he was playing? I understand. I'll be more careful next time and prevent something like this from happening again. As Xiao Yichen spoke, the corners of his mouth turned up slightly. He promised Yun Shishir, Mommy, don't worry. I'll take good care of little brother in the future. Yu Yu leaned against the bed and held the paper bag in his hands. He tried to calm his breathing, but his gaze slowly fell on Xiao Yichen's determined face. I'll take good care of little brother in the future. Although his voice was young and tender, his words were powerful and reliable. They struck a chord in Yichen's heart. Yu Yu's brows relaxed slightly, and his eyes curved slightly. His pink lips, which were covered by the paper bag, curved slightly. This older brother of his seemed to be very reliable. He wasn't as stupid as he had thought. Surprisingly, it made him feel reliable. Yu Yu's symptoms quickly stabilized. Xiao Yichen immediately walked to the bed, held his shoulders, and helped him lie down. He did not tuck the blanket properly for him. Yun Shirshir walked forward and took a good look at him. Seeing that he had recovered, she was no longer worried. "Are you tired from playing?" She pinched his little face. "Look at you. You're sweating all over. Did you have fun?" Xiao Yichen looked at him expectantly. Yu glanced at Xiao Yichen lightly. His cheeks turned red, but he pretended to be cold and said, "Yeah, it was okay. I was a little bored." A little bored, Xiao Yichen's eyes drooped in disappointment. He pouted pitifully. "If you're tired, take a nap. When you wake up, Mommy will give you a bath." "Mommy, will you accompany me?" Yu Yu smiled with his eyes narrowed. "Mommy is going to pack my luggage. I'll come back later. Let your brother accompany you first, okay?" Yun Shirshir coaxed him. The smile in Yu Yu's eyes instantly dimmed. He glanced sideways at Xiao Yichen, who was lying on the edge of the bed like a puppy wagging its tail and looking at him with bright eyes. "All right." Yu Yu raised her eyebrows and pulled up the blanket to cover half of her face. Only her eyes were exposed. Disappointment was evident in her eyes. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly. This time, he did not refuse. Xiao Yichen's eyes lit up. Even though Yu Yu did not show any signs of intimacy, Xiao Yichen felt that his tsundere little brother was trying to get close to him. "Mommy, I will take good care of little brother." "Okay, call me if you need anything." Yun Shirshir wanted to give the two brothers more opportunities to get along. 6 years of time was like a great flood, diluting the strong feelings between the brothers. Now, she hoped that the two children could get closer and at least not be so distant. Xiao Yichen obviously liked Yu Yu a lot, but Yu was a little cold toward Xiao Yichen. After Yun Shirshir left the room, Yun Tianyu covered his face with the blanket and planned to take an afternoon nap. Just as he was about to fall asleep, Xiao Yichen lifted the blanket covering his face. "You can't sleep under the blanket. It's not good for your health." "Yu Yu," Xiao Yichen's handsome face enlarged in front of him. "Little brother, are you sleepy?" "I'm sleepy," Yu Yu answered nonchalantly and then turned around to face him with his back. His attitude was aloof. Chapter 752. "I don't want to." Yu Yu closed his eyes. Xiao Yichen suddenly whispered into his ear, "Little brother, your eyelashes are so long. This guy is so talkative." Yu Yu was annoyed and turned over. Xiao Yichen was like a kitten again. He quietly lay in front of him and carefully observed Yu Yu's face with his eyes closed. His eyelashes were long, thick, and curly like the beautiful feathers of a black phoenix. His eyes were the same as his own. They were the classic peach blossom eyes with deep eyeliner and upturned corners. The corners of his eyes were charming pink. His nose bridge was high and his lips were thin like cherry blossoms. What was different from his was that this guy's skin was really tender. It was snow white and translucent, tender and supple, as white as porcelain. Xiao Yichen couldn't help but reach out to pinch his face. Yu suddenly felt a perverted hand pinching his face and suddenly opened his eyes. He met Xiao Yichen's surprised eyes. "Wow, your skin is so soft like water. It's so soft and smooth." Yu gritted his teeth. "Mu-Yichen, here." Xiao Yichen instinctively stood up in a straight military posture. His majestic voice reverberated throughout the room. Yu was dumbfounded by his loud and clear, "Here." Xiao Yichen realized his embarrassment and touched the back of his head embarrassedly. "I've been training in the military since I was young. When you called my name, I subconsciously saluted." Yu's eyebrows twitched. "Can't you be quiet for a while?" Xiao Yichen looked at him lovingly. Yu felt uncomfortable under his gaze and immediately drew a line. "I'm warning you. Keep a distance of 5 meters from me." Xiao Yichen yawned and nodded. He really took 3 steps back and maintained a distance of 5 meters. "Don't come any closer to me." Yu warned him again. Xiao Yichen supported his head and nodded. Yu crawled under the blanket. Before he closed his eyes, he didn't forget to turn around and look at him. Xiao Yichen knew his place. He sat cross-legged on the floor and supported his chin with one hand. His eyelids were drooping. He was obviously tired. I'm so tired. He didn't take a nap in the afternoon, so he was feeling a little. Little brother, I'm sleepy. Little brother, are you asleep? A muffled voice came from under the blanket. Why are you talking when you're asleep? Shut up. Yu snorted. Xiao Yichen pursed his lips and hesitated for a while. Then he pouted and said, I'm sleepy too. Can I sleep next to you? There was no reply for a while. He stood up and saw that Yu was already asleep. He tiptoed to the side of the bed and peeked at him again. He saw that Yu's eyes were tightly shut and he was covered with a thin blanket. It seemed that he was really asleep. Xiao Yichen bit his lip and hung one leg on the bed. When he saw that there was no reaction from the blanket, he carefully laid down on the bed. Xiao Yichen's head gently rested on the pillow. He closed his eyes and quickly fell asleep. Yu suddenly opened his eyes slowly. He looked at Xiao Yichen's sleeping face and sighed softly. This annoying guy is finally quiet. But isn't he going to cover himself with a blanket? Although the sun was hot outside, the room was air-conditioned. If he didn't cover himself with a blanket, he would easily catch a cold. However, there was only one blanket in the room. Chapter 753. I don't want to share a blanket with this annoying fellow. He deserves to catch a cold if he doesn't hug his blanket to sleep. With this thought in mind, he calmly turned over and went back to sleep. Xiao Yichen suddenly turned over. Yu, who was about to fall asleep, was startled awake by his action. He turned around and saw little Yichen lying on his back facing him with his arms hugging his shoulders. Apparently, he felt cold in his sleep. Yu pursed his lips and frowned slightly. With a conflicted expression, he slowly lifted a corner of the blanket. In the afternoon, Xianxia finished packing her luggage. Wuxia leaned against the door and suddenly thought of something. He asked, who usually cleans the room at home? The house is too big, so I hired a cleaning lady. What about before you moved? Weren't you renting a house before this? According to the duty schedule, Yu and I took turns to clean. At this point, Xianxia suddenly felt a little guilty. Most of the time, Yu is the one cleaning. Wuxia narrowed his eyes dangerously. You actually made my son do manual labor? What? Why are you looking at me like that? Xianxia protested unhappily. What do you mean by making Yu do manual labor? You're looking at me as if I'm abusing a child. Isn't that the case? Wuxia walked into the room and sat on the bed. He listed out her crimes one by one. Have you ever seen a 6-year-old with the culinary skills of a 5-star chef? Have you ever seen a 6-year-old with the ability to clean a room alone? Have you ever seen a 6-year-old with the ability to? She had a net worth of hundreds of millions at the age of 6. Xianxia did not know about this. He almost let it slip. Mr. Mu, Yu is already 7 years old. He just had his birthday, Xianxia reminded him. Is there any difference? You're a year older, so you're more sensible. He's so mature, Wuxia reminded her. At least, I've never seen a child as mature as him. Xianxia felt guilty for a few seconds and nodded silently. This child was indeed too precocious. Wuxia asked suspiciously, how did you educate your child? It was really too amazing. The last time he tasted Yu's cooking, if Xianxia hadn't admitted it herself, he wouldn't have believed that such exquisite culinary skills came from a child. Every piece of meat was extremely light and thin, and stir-fried with flavor. Every stalk of vegetable was cut evenly, and each stalk was well-proportioned. How did Xianxia educate her children at home? I didn't really educate him. I just let him develop naturally, Xianxia said calmly. Natural development, my ass. Natural development can develop to this extent? Wuxia obviously did not believe it. What else can I do? I didn't even sign him up for an extracurricular class. He usually stays at home to play computer games, read magazines, and do homework. Xianxia said innocently. Wuxia glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. On the surface, he seemed to be playing computer games, but in fact, he was hacking someone's security system. On the surface, he seemed to be reading magazines, but in fact, he was studying the financial situation of other companies. On the surface, he was doing exercises, But those exercises were all advanced mathematics exercises. Besides, my son was born to be a little warm-hearted. He knows how to understand me, so I don't need to teach him. He's self-taught. Isn't that a good thing? Xianxia spread out her hands and looked very proud. Chapter 754. Mu Yaja furrowed his eyebrows. If you were overseas, you would definitely be reported for child abuse. What? Xianxia retorted. When did I abuse you? Do you think I'm like you? What about me? Xianxia was still so young, and you threw him into the military for training. How can there be such a cruel father like you? When I was 3 years old, I was thrown into the military to observe the training, Mu Yaja said slowly. Xianxia was completely stunned. What? 3 years old? A 3-year-old child can't even speak coherently. That's you. When I was 3 years old, I could already memorize 100 ancient poems. What's so great about that? Xianxia felt that her intelligence was being looked down upon. She immediately protested, "Don't make personal attacks. Stupid woman, I suspect that you're dragging the whole family down." Mu Yaja suddenly looked at her face and said seriously. Xianxia was stunned. What do you mean? You pulled down the average IQ of the whole family. Xianxia was silent. I admit that I'm not as smart as you, but I still graduated with honors from my undergraduate degree, okay? We're talking about IQ, not studying. Xianxia raised her hands in surrender. I'm really sorry that I'm dragging you down, but I'm holding up the average appearance of the whole family, okay? As she said that, she blinked her eyes, and her pair of peach blossom eyes were filled with a smug smile. Mu Yaja stood up and walked in front of her. He reached out to hold her hand and pulled her into his embrace. He lowered his head and reached out to brush her hair aside. He saw that she was wearing the stars in the sky pendant that he had given her that day. She was also wearing the meteor pendant around her neck. He smiled satisfactorily and kissed her face gently. Xianxia was stunned for a moment. Then she looked up and kissed him back gently. He was so tall that she had to stand on her tiptoes. A light peck landed on his lips. Young master, young madam, we caught a lot of seafood on the boat this afternoon. Do you have any plans tonight? Xianxia raised her eyebrows. It's rare for us to come to the beach. Let's have a picnic tonight. How about it? When Xianxia walked into the room, the 2 children were still asleep. But when she walked to the bed, she saw Xianxia and Yu sleeping face to face to face. Xianxia's arm was very close. Zhaozi's arm was gently on Yu's shoulder, while Zhao Yu's little face was buried S face. Yu being S his sleeping position. The 2 little guys should share a blanket. After a few calls, the boy slowly woke up. Mommy, wake up. It's getting dark. Let's get ready for dinner. Yu rubbed his sleepy eyes. Xianxia woke up next to him. He opened his eyes and saw Xianxia. He smiled. Mommy. Xianxia, hurry up and get ready with your brother. Come down for dinner. Xianxia smiled and nodded. But Mommy is waiting for you downstairs. Xianxia left the room as she spoke. Yu immediately got out of bed and went to the bathroom to take a shower. Xianxia sat up on the bed and looked at the blanket on his body. When he regained consciousness, he couldn't help but feel suspicious. He remembered that he didn't have a blanket on him when he went to bed. Could it be? Chapter 755. Yun Tianyu expressionlessly answered, No. Isn't that so? You want me to cover you with a blanket? Do you think that's possible? Yun Tianyu retorted with a look of disdain. Xianxia's eyes betrayed his disappointment and surprise. Then, the blanket on me, you snatched it from me, Yun Tianyu coldly replied as he dried his hair with a towel. Xianxia quickly explained, I don't have the habit of snatching blankets when I sleep. Yun Tianyu gave him a side glance with disdain and snorted. You talk in your sleep, it's so noisy. Other than talking in my sleep, I don't have any other bad habits. Xianxia defended himself, feeling wronged. He usually did not talk in his sleep. Kicking the blanket doesn't count? Yu frowned as he retorted. Xianxia's eyes widened in surprise. I even kicked the blanket? You even drooled when you were sleeping. Yun Tianyou's eyes suddenly became more disdainful. I even took a picture. Do you want to see it? Xiao Yichen pouted and pointed at him in grievance. You actually took a picture of me secretly. Yun Tianyou's lips curled into a sinister smile. Yes, I did. What can you do about it? Xiao Yichen looked at his smile and, for a moment, had an illusion. Yun Tianyou's sinister smile overlapped with Mu Yaja's smile. They were really alike. Yu Yu's smile was exactly the same as his daddy's. What a godlike genetic inheritance. What's wrong? Yun Tianyu asked curiously as he touched his face when he saw him staring at him in a daze. Nothing. Xiao Yichen suddenly shook his head in silence. Yu was not used to the fact that Xiao Yichen had stopped pestering him. He thought that he had gone too far and was about to comfort him when Xiao Yichen suddenly pounced on him. He stretched out his claws and tore the towel off his body. Xiao Yichen's sudden attack caught the boy off guard. By the time he reacted, the towel he was using to cover his private parts had already been ripped off by Xiao Yichen. Ha! If you dare to secretly take pictures of me, I will secretly take pictures of you too. Little Yichen held his towel with one hand as he proudly declared. Idiot! Idiot! Give me back the towel. Yun Tianyu flew into a rage out of humiliation and quickly reached out to block Xiao Yichen, only to be mercilessly mocked by him. Wow, little brother, your little Yu is really small. It's a mini and cute type. Yun Tianyou's face instantly turned red. It's really small. Shame on you. Yu retorted indignantly, is yours really big? Bigger than yours, bigger than yours. Xiao Yichen made a funny face and quickly took out his phone from his trouser pocket. Come, let's take a picture. Get lost. Yun Tianyu casually picked up something next to him and threw it at him. Xiao Yichen nimbly dodged it. He was as agile as a leopard and his footsteps were as vigorous as the wind. Kacha. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Yichen had already taken 3 pictures. Yun Tianyu gritted his teeth. His impression of this guy had changed and he thought that he was a reliable brother. Who would have thought? That pervert. He actually took nude pictures of him. You be good, don't be shy. We are brothers, we should be honest with each other. Yu angrily said, stop taking pictures. Chapter 756. Mu Yichen, don't you dare take another photo. Yun Tianyu covered his private area with his hands and glared at him in shame and anger. Mu Yichen did not take his threat to heart at all. It was as if he was not affected at all. He waved the phone in his hand and said smugly, I'll take a photo, I'll take a photo. I'm not like you who secretly took photos. I'm taking them openly. What can you do to me? What do you think? Yu Yu's anger rose when she saw how he dared to show off in front of her. Mu Yichen was not afraid of Yu Yu's anger as he continued to jump around and agitate her. Yu Yu is really small. How can you be so tiny? Mu Yichen covered his mouth and snickered at him. Yun Tianyu snorted indignantly. A cold sneer appeared on his face as he slowly retorted, You said that mine is small, but yours isn't that big other. Mine is definitely bigger than yours. Daddy's is big, so I'll definitely be like Daddy's when I grow up. Xiao Yichen put his hands on his waist as he spoke righteously. His words betrayed Mu Yaja completely. At this moment, Mu Yaja, who was strolling on the beach with Yun Shishir, sneezed gracefully. I don't believe you. You can't be trusted at all. You're obviously very small, yet you're pretending to be big. You're obviously bragging. Yu Yu's pink lips twitched as he shot a disdainful look at a certain part of his body. His hands were too small and could not cover his private area. She decided not to be pretentious and let go of them. With her hands on her waist, she looked at him coldly. The mockery in her eyes could not be more obvious. Mu Yichen's expression changed slightly. He was hurt by Yu Yu's merciless sarcasm and doubt. His face turned red as he said, I'm not lying to you. Mine is bigger than yours. You're obviously jealous of me, so then show it to me too. If you don't show it to me, how would I know if it's big? Yu Yu pointed at him and smiled coldly. Even if it was a real gun, it had to be shown. Everything he said was a big lie. Mu Yichen was, after all, naive and innocent. He was goaded by his father's words. "All right, I'll show it to you. Who's afraid of you?" He walked up to him indignantly. Just as he was about to unzip his pants, Yu let out a sinister laugh and reached out his claws. Imitating his older brother's earlier method, he pulled down his pants in one swift motion. Ah! Chen was shocked by his actions and took half a step back. However, he tripped over his pants and fell to the ground. Ouch! Tears welled up in his eyes as he fell to the ground. Soon, his private area was exposed to the air. Yun Tianyu glanced at it with disdain in his eyes. He wondered how big his private area was. It was not much bigger than his, so what was there to be proud of? This time, it was Chen's turn to be bashful. With a blushing face, he tightly covered his private part and bit his lower lip hard. His watery eyes were full of innocence and accusation. "How dare you take off my pants? We are brothers. We should be honest with each other." Yun Tianyu snorted and repeated what he had just said as a form of rebuttal. Chen wanted to get up from the ground at once, but Yun Tianyu quickly went forward and sat on him. Chapter 757. Yun Tianyu snatched the phone from his hand and took a series of close-up shots of his mini Xianxia. Xianxia blushed. "Don't take photos. Don't take photos. You're shy now, huh? You were so excited to take photos just now." Yun Tianyu clicked his tongue again and mocked. "You still dare to say that yours is big? The little lotus is just showing its tip. The little lotus is just showing its tip." This analogy was perfect. What fried dumplings? Xianxia was baffled by his sudden analogy. Idiot, such a profound language philosophy is definitely not something a fool like you can understand. Yu smiled and took a few more close-up shots before he stood up in satisfaction. "How many photos did you take just now?" 9 consecutive. Yun Tianyu gracefully put on his shirt while holding his phone with one hand. He kept scrolling through the close-ups he had just taken. In comparison, Chen's penis was indeed a little bigger than his. Still, it was only a little bigger. He still had room for growth. Perhaps, he would be able to make a comeback in the future. "Give me back my phone." Xianxia pulled up his pants and snatched it from Yun Tianyu's hand. Yun Tianyu pressed the send button and sent those photos to his cloud drive. He saved them and then deleted all the photos Xianxia had taken of him secretly. The whole process took less than 10 seconds. His fingers flew across the screen to confirm that all the photos had been deleted. He then generously threw the phone back to him. "Here, I'm returning it to you." Xianxia immediately flipped through the photo album on the phone, only to find that he had secretly taken several nude photos of Yu. They were all... oh, damn. They were all gone. Chen sorrowfully asked, "What did you do?" "Nothing." "Then why are those photos gone?" Yun Tianyu nonchalantly replied, "Oh, I deleted it." "Yu, you're so bad." Chen complained. It wasn't easy to secretly take photos, but they were all deleted. His heart ached. Yu elegantly put on his suit shorts and snorted, but he did not comment. "You're too stupid. How can you blame me for being bad? How dare you delete my photos?" Yun Tianyu turned around, his lips curling into a playful smile. "I must remind you that you were the one who took photos of me first. I'm just legally defending my right to privacy. Although I am still young, but to my secretas for privacy, I still have the right to protect it. Understand?" "What do you mean by violation of privacy? You took pictures of me without my permission. That's an invasion of my privacy." Chen stared at him blankly. He felt that his pompous words actually sounded quite reasonable. Chen nodded his head in understanding. Belatedly, he came to a realization. "Why did you secretly take photos of me?" "That's because you're not as good as others. If you have the ability to attack me, delete those photos." Yun Tianyu spread his hands. To Chen, the expression on his face was extremely repulsive. "You cheated." Chen was at a loss for words. He felt that his younger brother was too repulsive. Yun Tianyu smiled provocatively. "Idiot, idiot. You." Chen was even more vexed and pounced on him. Yu was caught off guard and fell to the ground. The movement was so loud that he bumped into the luggage on the table. Chapter 758. Mu Yichen was alarmed by the sound of something falling. He immediately looked up and saw that it was the present he had given to Yu Yu. Out of curiosity, he let go of Yu Yu and took the small and exquisite gift box in his hand. The packaging was still there, and even the ribbon tied into a bow was still there. There were some signs of wear and tear on the outer packaging, which seemed to be frequently used. Why was it not opened yet? He had put in a lot of effort to pick this present, and he only hoped that he would like it. However, did his younger brother not like his present? He was not even interested in opening it to take a look. Yu Yu got up from the ground and brushed the dust off his clothes. He looked up and saw from the corner of his eye that Mu Yichen was holding the gift box in his hand. His brows were furrowed, and his eyes were deep in thought. When his gaze fell on the gift box again, he strangely blushed and immediately walked forward. "Give it back to me." Yu Yu reached out to grab it, but he caught nothing but air. Mu Yichen avoided his hand and looked up. His gaze fell on his face with a conflicted look. "This is my present for you." Yu Yu pinched the corner of his shirt and nervously pursed his lips. He pretended to be cool and arrogant as he raised his chin. His little pink lips were pressed into a tight line. "Why didn't you open it?" Mu Yichen asked curiously. Yun Tianyu furrowed his brows and stammered for a while. He suddenly glared at him and snapped, "Why are you asking about this? It's none of your business." Xiao Yichen was already used to his cold and arrogant attitude. He could not help feeling disappointed when he saw that his carefully chosen present did not seem to be favored by his younger brother. "I took a long time to choose this present." And then, Yu Yu's heart seemed to be stabbed when he saw the loneliness on his face. His attitude softened a little. "And then I hope that you will like it." Xiao Yichen raised a brow and suddenly laughed self-deprecatingly. "You don't seem to like it, though. Is it because you don't like this gift?" Mu Yichen's face fell as he said sadly. Yu Yu hesitated for a while and then said hesitantly, No. If you don't like it, then forget it." As Mu Yichen spoke, he put the gift into his trouser pocket with an aggrieved expression. Only then did Yun Tianyu panic. He rushed up to him and gripped his wrist tightly. With a look of displeasure, he asked, "What are you doing?" Mu Yichen saw that he suddenly became nervous. For a moment, his face was blank. "Didn't you not like this gift?" "Even if I don't like it, you can't take it away." He frowned and said righteously, "You gave it to me, didn't you?" "Yes," Mu Yichen said. "At least, let me see what it is so that I can decide whether I like it or not," he said bashfully. "I haven't opened it yet." This was because, for some reason, he could not bear to open it. Mu Yichen felt that his younger brother was very contradictory. One moment he did not like it, and the next moment he wanted to see it before deciding whether he liked it or not. Did he like it or not, then? "Anyway, I don't care. You gave it to me, so it's mine. How can you take it back?" Yun Tianyu snatched it from his hand. Chapter 759. Could it be that he couldn't bear to open the gift? Even though he didn't like it on the surface, he actually liked it a lot, right? Was it because he felt awkward and was shy to say it? That must be it. Hence, Mu Yichen snatched the gift back from his hands and pretended to be upset. "You obviously don't like it, so don't force yourself." Yu Yu was stunned. His lips twitched, but he couldn't form a coherent sentence. He obviously liked it a lot. Other than his mother, he had never received anyone else's gift. The packaging was so exquisite, serious, and meticulous. He always carried it with him. There were a few times when he wanted to open it, but he couldn't bear to. He didn't know why he couldn't bear to open it. He just couldn't bear to destroy such a beautiful packaging. It was obvious that the gift was handmade. Every detail, down to the trimming, was meticulous. Mu Yichen looked at him expectantly. There was a conflicted and complicated expression on his face. "Say it. If you like it, just say it." Why did he always hide the truth in his heart and not say it out loud? He obviously liked his gift. He could see it in his eyes. Why didn't he say it? Who did he inherit such an awkward personality from? Under Mu Yichen's expectant gaze, Yu took a deep breath. He opened his mouth, but only a few words came out. "Then, forget it." Then, he glanced coldly at Muichen. I've never seen someone like you. You've already given the gift to someone else, but you still want to snatch it back. Yu Yu turned around and put on his pants, ignoring him. Muichen's lips twitched. This brother of his was extraordinarily awkward. Suddenly, Muichen sighed and walked to his side. He handed the gift to him. Here, open it and take a look. I'm not opening it. Open it. I'm not opening it. Why do you care? If you're not opening it, I'll open it for you. Muichen said and was about to open the gift. Yu Yu saw this and immediately stopped him. Wait, what happened? Forget it. Yu Yu pursed her lips. I'll open it. When Muichen heard this, he couldn't help but laugh out loud. This guy is really fun to play with. Yu Yu saw him covering his mouth and laughing. She blushed and said angrily, Hey, what are you laughing at? I'm laughing at your cuteness. He's seriously ill. Yu Yu snorted coldly. Then, she pinched the ribbon between her fingers and hesitated for a moment. Finally, she pursed her lips and pulled the ribbon away. He slowly tore off the packaging with an expectant and devout expression on his face. Every step he took was very careful. Even if it was a cheap packaging paper, he was reluctant to tear it. Muichen looked at the serious and cautious expression on his face and felt a little touched. He really cherished this gift. It could be seen from his careful movements. His heart felt warm, as if a warm current was flowing into it. At this moment, Yu Yu had already opened the packaging. A violet crystal bracelet lay quietly in the box. He opened his eyes slightly in surprise. The mysterious and beautiful violet crystal shone with an incomparably moving luster. Coupled with the unique design, it was very beautiful. A bracelet. Yu Yu suddenly frowned. She felt that this bracelet was very familiar. She seemed to realize what it was and suddenly lowered her head. Her gaze fell on Muichen's wrist. A crystal anklet was tied around his small wrist, and it was of the same design as the one on the table. Chapter 760. Did you choose it? Yu Yu narrowed his eyes and asked suspiciously. Muichen may look dumb, but his taste was surprisingly good. Muichen was slightly displeased with the suspicion in his eyes. Why are you looking at me like that? He looked at him as though he was an idiot. You haven't answered me. Do you like it? Muichen asked relentlessly. Yu Yu ignored his question and carefully took out the bracelet to study it. How do I put on this bracelet? Let me put it on for you. Muichen immediately volunteered and took the bracelet from him. Give me your hand. Okay. Yu Yu stretched out his hand and revealed his fair wrist. Muichen gently put the bracelet on Yu Yu's wrist. It seemed a little too big. More importantly, Yu Yu was too skinny and his wrist was smaller than his. He raised his eyebrows and tightened the bracelet. Is it tight? It's not tight. It's just right. You're too skinny. How can you be so skinny? Muichen looked up at him. You don't eat meat usually, right? I do. You don't eat much? Yu Yu said, Oh, I'm a carnivore. I'm a carnivore. He liked to eat meat. Sometimes, when he was in a good mood, he would fry steak. The steak he cooked tasted better than the ones in the restaurant. Then why don't you put on weight? Muichen was a little defeated. Mommy used to pay attention to my nutrition. She said that I was growing and had a customized meal every day. But no matter how much I ate, I couldn't put on weight. Yu Yu recalled the past. When he stood on the scale and the needle did not move for long, Yun Shishir looked defeated. It seems that I have this body type. I can't put on weight. Muichen blinked his eyes in amazement. Then why are you so skinny? I feel like I can pick you up with one hand. Yu Yu looked at him speechlessly. You're really all brawn and no brains. Nonsense. How am I simple-minded? Then, Yu Yu raised his chin and threw out an arithmetic question. What is 4 plus 5 plus 6 plus 7 plus 8 plus 9 plus 10? You have 10 seconds to figure it out. This was a simple math problem. Basically, he could calculate the exact answer in his mind after the teacher had finished reciting the question. However, Xiao Yichen had no choice but to lower his head and seriously count one finger at a time. Yu Yu looked at him, speechless for a long time. Don't calculate it. It's not right to let you calculate my toes. Yu Yu's disdainful words were like 1,000 arrows piercing through Mu Yichen's heart. I'm not in the right state today. I can't calculate well. Usually, this kind of math problem is very easy for me. Yu Yu was completely speechless. Why did he need to be in the right state to solve such a simple math problem? Suddenly, there was a sound of footsteps outside the door. Then, a servant knocked on the door gently. Young masters, have you changed your clothes? Mu Yichen frowned and asked, What's the matter? We're having a picnic at the beach tonight. Everything is ready. We're just waiting for you two young masters. Got it. Mu Yichen turned around and said, Let's go downstairs. Okay. Yu Yu nodded and took the lead to walk to the door. Mu Yichen suddenly thought of something. He hesitated for a while, then caught up with him and held his hand. Chapter 761. What are you doing? Yu Yu stopped in his tracks helplessly. Why is this Mu Yichen so clingy? He's just like my little tail. Mu Yichen quickened his pace and stood in front of him, blocking his path. Lowering his head, he asked seriously, Little brother, what do you think of this? Him? Yu Yu glanced at him. His nonsensical question made it hard for anyone to fathom what he was trying to ask. Mu Yichen pursed his lips and asked seriously, Daddy, Mommy, do you think it's good for me to live with you in the same house? The family of 4 living together. Yu Yu was stunned. He did not expect him to ask such a question and did not reply for a while. Isn't it good? Feeling nervous all of a sudden, Mu Yichen mumbled incoherently, I like this a lot. I like Mommy and you too. I want the whole family to live together. That way, home will feel like home, won't it? It was a very heartwarming feeling. Being able to live with his daddy, mommy, and little brother made him feel the warmth of a family. In the Mu family, he only felt a bone-chilling coldness and indifference. He could not feel the warmth that a family should have, much less the warmth of intimacy. Whether it was Mu Wanru or Mu Sheng, he felt that they were exceptionally distant and unfamiliar to him. He did not even want to get close to them. Hence, since he was young, he was a little reclusive. He did not like to talk or communicate with others. He would lock himself in the study room and immerse himself in his own world. Even though she was used to such a cold and cheerless home, she still had a persistent desire for the warmth of home in her heart. He wanted to have a family. Mu Yichen looked seriously at Yu Yu's expression and saw the struggle in the little lad's eyes. It was a little complicated and conflicted. Are you afraid that I'll steal Mommy's love? Mu Yichen asked tentatively. Seeing that the boy was silent, he immediately raised his palm and swore seriously, I swear that I won't steal Mommy from you. On the contrary, you'll have Daddy's love and my love. The 3 of us will dote on you. Hearing this, Yun Tianyu stared at him in shock. Mu Yichen swore again, It's true. That's because you're my little brother and I'm your elder brother. I'll protect you and not let any harm come to you. If anyone dares to bully you, I'll definitely bully them back. Yun Tianyu was stunned for a while before he pursed his lips and laughed. Mu Yichen looked a little embarrassed. What are you laughing about? You sound as if you're confessing. Yu could not help twitching his eyebrows. In the past, when a male colleague in Mommy's company was wooing Mommy, he had also said the same thing. Can't you be more serious? At least, I'm serious. Mu Yichen knitted his brows but could not bear to rebuke him. Yun Tianyu raised a brow and said, All right. I'll consider it. With that, he held the railing and walked down the stairs. Mu Yichen chased after him. Only consider it? I'll seriously consider it. Why do you still need to consider it? Because. He lowered his gaze and bit his pink lips. I'm not used to having a daddy and an elder brother appearing out of nowhere. Why? Mu Yichen stood behind him and looked at him with a defeated look. He felt inexplicably helpless. Chapter 762. Yu Yu looked at him speechlessly. Mu Yichen, you look as if you've just fallen out of love. Mu Yichen retorted, What do you mean? I'm clearly sad. All right. I'll seriously consider it. Yu Yu felt helpless and could only coax him. Seriously, he was clearly his older brother, yet he still needed to coax him like a younger brother. Who was the older brother and who was the younger brother? Really? Really? Mu Yichen excitedly cheered himself up and regained his vigor in an instant. Yun Tianyu was dumbfounded by the sudden change in his attitude. What a child, changing his attitude at a whim, just like the weather in June. Let's go. Mu Yichen did not know what Yu was thinking to himself. He held his hand and walked toward the beach. On the beach's balcony, there was a long dining table with exquisite cutlery on it. At the side, an indescribably unpleasant smell was constantly emitting from the barbecue machine. It was pungent. Yu could not help covering his mouth and nose, curious about what the man was doing. Mu Yaja was placing the scallops one by one on the barbecue machine and leaning against it seriously. A few pieces of burnt seafood were thrown into a bucket at the side, giving off a burnt smell. Mu Yichen covered his nose and walked over to take a look. Looking at the man's clumsy technique, he gave a look of disdain. "Daddy, you're so lousy." Mu Yaja's face darkened. He pinched his son's face with his slender fingers and snorted. "What did you say about Daddy? Lousy? No. Daddy, you heard wrong." Mu Yichen quickly broke free from his father's grip and fled to the side, rubbing his cheeks pitifully. Yu walked over to the barbecue machine and looked at the scallops that his father had placed on the barbecue rack. They were showing signs of being charred again, and he, too, had a look of disdain on his face. So stupid. Mu Yaja's face darkened. Yun Tianyu glanced at Mu Yichen's sullen face and for some reason recalled Mu Yichen's smug words, "Mine is definitely bigger than yours. Because daddies are very big. When I grow up, I will definitely be the same size as Daddy. Because daddies are very big. When I grow up, I will definitely be the same as daddies. Because daddy's was very big. Because daddy's was very big." Yu's eyebrows twitched. Following that, he looked at a certain important part of the man's body with a profound gaze. Mu Yaja saw him staring at him, and his gaze was fixed on a certain part of his body. A strange expression appeared on his face. "What are you looking at?" "Oh." Yu quickly came back to her senses and pretended to be calm. "Nothing." "Mu Yaja?" His face was filled with question marks. He really could not figure out what was going on in this little guy's head. Mu Yichen saw Yu's profound gaze and followed his gaze to a certain part of Mu Yaja's body. Brothers are connected by heart. He instantly understood what he was looking at and thinking. Pfft. He covered his mouth and snickered. Mu Yaja was a little indignant. "What are you snickering about?" "Nothing. Daddy, grill your scallops properly. They're burnt again." Mu Yaja hurriedly looked at the scallops and smelled a burnt smell. Even his face revealed a look of disdain. She picked up the tongs and threw the scallop that was burnt to a crisp to the side. Yun Tianyu lamented from the side, "What a waste of resources. Daddy, you're too useless. Daddy, you're too useless." Chapter 763. Mu Yaja furrowed his brows and said, "Shut up. You can do it if you're so good." "Sure, my cooking will definitely be better than yours." Yu looked at him with undisguised disdain. Mu Yichen said quietly, "Daddy's cooking is not a matter of whether it tastes good or not. It's a matter of whether it can be eaten." Yu pondered and said, "If I eat it, I'll definitely get food poisoning. Maybe I won't even have a chance to save him." "Yes." Yu was obviously convinced by Mu Yichen's words. The two lads echoed each other's words as they despised Mu Yaja to the core. The man's hand that was holding the pliers tightened, and the veins on the back of his hand popped out. His face turned even darker. "Do you know? Daddy's cooking is not edible at all," Xiao Yichen revealed. "He knows how to cook?" "Yes. He cooked once and almost blew up the kitchen." Xiao Yichen shook his head helplessly and sighed. Yu glanced at Mu Yaja with even more disdain in her eyes. "If you don't even know how to cook, how are you going to feed my mommy?" Mu Yaja said. "Must a man know how to cook? A man who doesn't know how to cook wants to woo my mommy? If you want to win my mommy's heart, you have to win her stomach first." Yu pursed her lips and gave him a bad review. Xiao Yichen said, "Don't force my daddy. When he cooks, he's like a terrorist. Whatever he orders, he blows up. The kitchen is going to be destroyed by him." He was deeply hurt and tortured. He still remembered that day when he pestered his daddy to cook for him. In the end, he heard an explosion in the kitchen in less than 15 minutes. In an instant, a pungent smell wafted out of the kitchen. He walked closer to take a look and saw that the huge kitchen was filled with smoke. The entire wall was blackened. The kitchen table was a mess, and the pots were burned with holes. It was like a nuclear reactor laboratory, terrifying to the extreme. From then on, he was left with a deep psychological shadow, and he no longer believed in Mu Yaja's culinary skills. Well, to be precise, there was no culinary skill to speak of. Yu said calmly, "He looks like a terrorist even if he doesn't cook." "He's even more terrifying than terrorists. He's simply anti-human." Yu was deeply worried and said, "Let me do it. I'm worried that mommy will get food poisoning after eating your barbecued meat." Mu Yaja froze. "You have to know that my mommy is a delicate flower. Her body is so fragile that she can't withstand your ravaging." Yu continued to use her poisonous tongue. When Xiao Yichen heard this, he was extremely frightened. "That's right, Daddy. Don't roast it anymore. I don't want to eat your meat and be sent to the hospital to have my stomach pumped and my intestines pumped." Mu Yaja said, "Have you said enough?" Yu pursed her pink lips. "Are you angry from embarrassment?" Xiao Yichen said, "Yes, Daddy is angry from embarrassment." Yu said again, "Your culinary skills are negative, so don't destroy the innocent. Don't destroy the innocent. To avoid a tragedy, put down the weapon in your hand." "Yes, put down your weapon." Mu Yaja was completely speechless. He really did not know what to do with these two buffoons. He knitted his brows in displeasure, clearly disapproving. Was his cooking really anti-human? It was not that exaggerated. Mu Yaja was forced to step down. Yun Tianyu put on his apron and took his seat. Chapter 764. After a while, the barbecued meat gave off an aroma that seduced one's taste buds. Not a single detail was left out of his skillful hands. Even when it came to the seasoning process, Yun Tianyu was as strict as a textbook when it came to testing one's taste buds. The aroma of the meat, coupled with the seasoning, was fatally attractive. Mu Yaja watched his brother's skillful movements with his mouth agape. Xiao Yichen watched from the side, his mouth watering. He thought with satisfaction, with such a younger brother, I won't have to worry about going hungry in the future. He felt that this younger brother of his was a treasure. There was nothing he could not do. What a genius! Just as the three of them were studying the barbecue machine, Yun Shishir's call came from not far away. Yu, come quickly. The moment Yu heard Yun Shishir's voice, he dropped his stall and ran toward Yun Shishir. Mommy, I'm coming. I'll go too. Mu Yichen chased after him. Mu Yaja watched the two children's backs speechlessly as he silently scooped the food that Yu had barbecued onto a plate. Yun Shishir changed into a long bohemian dress and a sun hat as she walked barefoot to the beach. In the evening, the tide was low, and the cool, moist sea breeze blew. As she strolled on the beach, the soft sand flowed through her fingers. It was unbelievably comfortable. In the basket in her hand, she picked up many sea crabs, conches, and some beautiful shells. As the tide was low, she became interested and walked along the beach to pick up some shells. She was surprised to find that, other than the beautiful shells, she could also pick up a lot of sea gorillas. She could not help feeling curious. Yu followed closely behind her. When he saw a beautiful shell buried in the sand, he bent down to pick it up. On the other hand, Xiao Yichen was unlucky. He didn't see a single crab, and the shells he picked up were all broken. He was a little dispirited. Mommy, I can't see any crabs. Where did you find them? Xiao Yichen asked curiously as he caught up with Yun Shishir. Yes, I picked it up at the beach. But don't go. Yun Shishir lowered her head and reminded him, when the tide is low and a wave hits, it's easy to be swept into the sea. Okay. Xiao Yichen nodded. All right. Yun Shishir's eyes were sharp. She found another sea crab stranded on the shore. There's another dish. I'll pick it up. Xiao Yichen immediately volunteered and bent down to pick it up. Yun Shishir said worriedly, Xiao Yichen, you have to be careful. Don't hurt your hand. The pincers of these sea crabs are very powerful. It's very painful to be pinched by them. Let me do it. Yun Shirshir recalled a time when they went to a restaurant to eat. When they passed by the kitchen, a chef's hand was dripping with blood. A crab had pinched his finger and it had almost broken. Xiao Yichen was not afraid. "Mommy, it's okay. Don't worry. This sea crab is so small. Also, I'll be very careful." After he said that, he bent down and carefully pinched the two ends of the sea crab's hard shell. He pinched it up and put it into the basket with a proud smile on his face. "Awesome, right? Really awesome." Yun Shirshir smiled and praised him. Xiao Yichen looked at Yun Shirshir's beautiful and refined smile. For a moment, he could not help but be mesmerized. He did not come back to his senses for a long time. Yun Shirshir saw his dazed expression and touched her face in a daze. She thought that there was something strange on her face. Chapter 765. It's nothing. Xiao Yichen blushed and shook his head shyly. "I just think that Mommy looks good when she smiles." "You're such a sweet talker." Yun Shirshir couldn't help but pinch his cheeks gently. She suddenly turned her head and looked around. "Where's Yu? He was right beside me just now." Little Yichen panicked as well as he looked around for traces of his father. In the end, Yun Shirshir's eyes were sharp. It turned out that the little guy had run to the beach to pick up crabs. She called out helplessly, Yu, what are you doing?" Yu crossed his arms and squatted by the beach. His watery eyes looked at the little crabs struggling in the sand as the waves receded. He couldn't help but feel amazed. He felt that this scene was really interesting. The little crabs were so small. They weren't even half the size of his palm. A wave came and splashed many of the little crabs onto the shore. When the wave receded, the wave swept many of the little crabs back into the waves and swallowed them back into the arms of the sea. So fun, so fun. Like Yun Shirshir, it was his first time at the beach. Before this, he had never seen what the real sea looked like. In the evening, the sunset glow covered the horizon and stretched all the way to the sea, dyeing the vast sea into an incomparably gorgeous color. At this moment, the child's natural instincts were at its peak. He was always full of curiosity towards new things. He curled up into a ball and squatted by the beach. He stared at the little crabs that were struggling in the sand with their backs to the sky. From time to time, he would kindly reach out and flip the poor little crabs over. The little crabs would follow their instincts and quickly crawl into the sea. Some of them burrowed into the sand. From afar, they looked like little worms. Yun Shirshir couldn't bear to disturb his curiosity, but she was also extremely worried. When the tide was low, the waves were very powerful. Yu was so small. She was worried that he would be swept into the sea, so she shouted, Yu, don't play by the beach. It's dangerous. What? Yu stood up. Just now, when the sea breeze blew, Yun Shirshir's voice was scattered in the sea breeze, so he didn't hear it clearly. Come back. Not at the beach. I know. I'll be right there. Yu replied as he stepped on the waves and walked towards Yun Shirshir. At this moment, a huge wave slammed against the rocks on the beach. Yu was alarmed by the huge sound of the huge wave. She couldn't help but look back and see that not far away, another wave was coming. His aura was astonishing. He quickened his pace. The waves rolled over, reaching a height of 5 feet. The huge wave hit his back, and he immediately felt as if his back was pushed by a terrifying force. He staggered and fell forward. The sand on the beach was soaked with seawater. He slipped, lost his balance, and fell to the ground. Mommy! Yun Shirshir turned her head abruptly and saw the boy falling into the waves. Yu! She screamed, threw the basket aside, and ran toward him. Xiao Yichen also heard the commotion and looked in the direction of the sound. Seeing that Yu was in danger, he recklessly ran toward him. Another strong wave hit, and Yu was caught off guard and was swept into it. Chapter 766. Xiao Yichen also heard the commotion and looked in the direction of the sound. Seeing that Yu was in danger, he recklessly ran towards him. Another wave came crashing over, and Yu was caught off guard as he was swept into the waves. Yu was caught off guard by the sudden danger and gulped down a mouthful of seawater. His mouth was filled with bitterness. His entire body was flipped over by the waves. He didn't know how to swim, so he subconsciously flopped around in the water a few times. However, his body was sinking deeper and deeper. Seawater came from all directions and continuously entered his nostrils and ears. Yu Yu tightly shut his eyes and mouth. The bitterness and sea gorilla taste in his mouth kept surging. He desperately paddled and tried his best to raise his head above the surface of the water. However, not long after, another wave came crashing over and he sank into the sea. He only felt that he was getting further and further away from the shore. Xiao Yichen quickly ran towards the place where Yu Yu had disappeared. However, halfway there, Mu Yaja, who had arrived at some point, pushed him aside and shouted, "Go back!" When he came back to his senses, Mu Yaja had already dove into the sea. Xiao Yichen was stunned. He wanted to swim and save his younger brother, but Yun Shirshir quickly ran to his side and carried him to the shore. "Mommy, what are you doing? Your daddy has already gone. Don't go. It's too dangerous." Yun Shirshir pretended to be calm and said, "Don't worry. Yu Yu will be fine." After she finished speaking, she anxiously looked towards the place where Yu Yu had disappeared. She felt extremely guilty. It was all her fault. It was all her fault. She was so focused on talking to Xiao Yichen that she didn't notice that Yu Yu had run to such a dangerous place. He was so small. How dangerous would it be if a wave came crashing over? If something happened to Yu Yu, she wouldn't be able to forgive herself. "Mommy, look, it's Daddy!" Xiao Yichen suddenly cried out in surprise. Yun Shirshir looked in the direction he was pointing and saw Mu Yaja carrying Yu Yu from the sea. He was drenched. Behind him, waves came crashing down on his back. If he was an ordinary person, he would have long been swept into the sea by the waves. However, he seemed to be motionless as he waded through the sea and walked to a safe area step by step. Yun Tianyu in his arms was already unconscious. Yun Shirshir and little Yichen hurriedly ran over. Mu Yaja leaned over and pressed his ear against the man's chest to listen. There was still a faint heartbeat. He checked the man's breathing. It was weak. Yun Shirshir and little Yichen stood at the side and watched nervously. "Daddy, how's little brother?" Mu Yaja could not be bothered with him. First, he placed Yu Yu face down and kneed his abdomen to force the fluid out of his nose. Next, he carried Yu Yu and helped him lie flat on his back. With his hands clasped together, he performed CPR on him. Mu Yaja pressed one hand on Yu Yu's forehead and pressed it down. His other hand lifted the boy's chin and forced him to open his mouth. He then performed a few rounds of mouth-to-mouth resuscitation on him. Cough. Yu Yu gradually regained consciousness. He slowly opened his eyes and saw Mu Yaja's handsome face in his hazy vision. He saw one hand pressing on his forehead and the other lifting his chin. When Yu Yu opened his eyes, he saw his father's mouth on his. He screamed uncontrollably. His clear and loud voice almost shattered Mu Yaja's ears. Chapter 767. Yu Yu pushed Mu Yaja away harshly and retreated backward. He wiped his lips harshly with one hand as if there was something dirty on them. He wanted to cry but had no tears. That was his first kiss. It was actually snatched away by this man. Her small, wet face was filled with disdain. Mu Yaja was bewildered by the look of disdain on his face. Why was this little guy glaring at him with such a look? He saw Yu Yu sizing him up with a disgusted look as he wiped his lips harshly with his fingertips and spat a few times. Mu Yaja's lips twitched harshly. Did this little guy dislike the fact that her lips had touched his? Yun Shirshir and Xiao Yichen looked at each other in surprise when they saw that Yu Yu was safe and sound. However, Yu Yu stood up and threw himself into his mother's arms, feeling wronged. He wailed, "Woo! Mommy, he stole a kiss from me. He stole a kiss from me. Yu Yu is no longer pure." Yun Shirshir's expression froze. Xiao Yichen, who was standing at the side, was stunned as well. Mu Yaja, in particular, was rooted to the spot. Only Yun Tianyou's cries kept echoing in his ears. "Daddy stole a kiss from me. Yu Yu is no longer pure. Daddy stole a kiss from me. Yu Yu is no longer pure." Xiao Yichen was the first to burst into laughter. Yu Yu heard his laughter and raised his head to glare at him. "Idiot! What are you laughing at?" Pfft. Yun Shirshir, too, could not hold back her laughter as she covered her mouth. Yu Yu looked deeply resentful. "Mommy, why are you laughing too?" "Mommy isn't laughing. Yun Shirshir immediately straightened her face and pretended to be solemn. However, before she could finish her sentence, she broke into laughter. He turned his head with resentment and glared at Mu Yaja. With his hands on his waist, his childish face was full of disgust. "Who told you to steal a kiss from me? Pervert." A certain man, who was accused of being a pervert, twitched his face. He opened his mouth, wanting to explain something, but he did not know where to start. "What, steal a kiss? That was artificial respiration, okay? Artificial respiration, okay?" This little rascal must have never seen what artificial respiration was, so he mistakenly thought that he was secretly kissing him. Yu pounced into Yun's arms. She covered her mouth and was already trembling with laughter. "Mommy, what's wrong with you? Why are you laughing?" "Ha!" Yun Shirshir could no longer hold it in after being asked such a naive question. She laughed out loud and held on to Yu's abdomen, which was twitching because she was trying so hard to hold back her laughter. She hugged Yu and laughed until they were a ball. "Ha!" Xiao Yichen, who was standing at the side, could no longer hold it in and laughed unbridled. "What a silly little brother. What, steal a kiss?" Daddy was clearly performing artificial respiration on him and saving him. He actually said that Daddy was a pervert who stole a kiss from him. "Ha!" Yu was so angry that he pounced on Xiao Yichen. He held his face with both hands and ruthlessly ravaged it. "Stop laughing! Stop laughing, idiot!" Xiao Yichen still could not hold it in. Yu was so angry that he balled his little hands into fists and pounded on his chest. In Yun Shirshir's eyes, this action looked a little bashful. Xiao Yichen saw that Yu was angry and wanted to tease him as well. His hands tickled his armpits. Yu was more sensitive. Sometimes, when Yun Shirshir was in the mood, she would tickle him. He could not stand it. Chapter 768. Yu, who had a cold expression on his face, couldn't stop laughing under Xiao Yichen's tickling. "Ha!" Yu's melodious laughter drifted along with the sea breeze. The two little kids rolled around on the beach. Yu couldn't take it anymore and finally begged for mercy. "Brother, pa, it's so ticklish, don't, ha!" Xiao Yichen felt that Yu was too cute when he laughed. He was much cuter than when he had a cold expression on his face. He thought about how Yu usually had a cold expression on his face and then looked at the little guy who was tearing up from laughing while he was tickling him. It was obvious that the latter was cuter. He really liked this little brother of his. Yu was laughing so hard that he couldn't take it anymore. He kept pushing Xiao Yichen's body, but at this moment, it was as if all the strength in his hands had been sucked away. After playing around for a while, Xiao Yichen grasped all the sensitive spots on Yu's body. Yu was very ticklish. The soles of his feet, his armpits, his waist, his ears. He was extremely sensitive when he touched them. His little brother was really a delicate flower. Mu Yaja looked at the two little kids playing around and his thin lips couldn't help but curve upwards. This was probably the kind of happiness that he could imagine. He had a woman he loved deeply and two adorable little kids by his side. They formed a happy family. Every single person was precious and indispensable. Whether it was Shirshir, Yu, or Xiao Yichen, none of them could be missing. Yun Shirshir stood at the side and looked at the two little kids playing around on the beach. A gratified smile appeared on her face. She looked up and suddenly met Mu Yaja's deep gaze. The two of them looked at each other for a long time and suddenly smiled knowingly. During dinner, Yu finally understood Mu Yaja's actions from Yun Shirshir. It turned out that he had fainted after he was washed into the sea. If Mu Yaja hadn't saved him in time, it would have been called mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? Yu held a knife and fork in his hands and looked at Yun Shirshir strangely with his bright eyes. He didn't understand this term. What's mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? It's mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Yun explained it to him in detail. Yu nodded his head with a look of contemplation. It turned out that not all mouth-to-mouth resuscitation was kissing. But he still felt disgusted. He could accept it if his mother gave him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. But he couldn't. Hss Little Yichen thought of something and asked curiously, "Did Daddy give Mommy mouth-to-mouth resuscitation too?" This little bun obviously wouldn't give up until he said something shocking. Yun Shirshir's face immediately turned red. Xiao Yichen's curiosity was piqued and he wanted to know more. He obviously wanted to get to the bottom of it. I saw it today. Daddy did mouth-to-mouth resuscitation for Mommy. Is that right, Mommy? Is that called mouth-to-mouth resuscitation? That's not mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Yu snorted. Daddy and Mommy were kissing. It was a kiss that only couples could kiss. What's that? Xiao Yichen looked at her curiously and looked back and forth between Mu Yaja and Yun Shirshir. Xiao Yichen, what Daddy and Mommy did wasn't mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Yun Shirshir pursed her lips and explained. Then what's it called? Xiao Yichen looked up innocently and curiously. Chapter 769. Hey, don't ask. Yun Shirshir felt a little awkward. How could she explain such things to her child in detail? She wanted to say more, but Xiao Yichen became more and more confused. A look of suspicion appeared on his face. Why can't I ask? Yu suddenly put down his cutlery and flicked his forehead. Idiot, Daddy and Mommy are kissing. Do you know what kissing is? Kissing? Oh, I get it. Xiao Yichen slapped his forehead. I've seen it on TV before. Kissing, I get it. Yu looked at him as if he was an idiot. He felt that his brother was hopelessly stupid. Muyaja also looked at Xiao Yichen with disdain. There was no harm in comparing. Compared to Yu, Xiao Yichen's IQ had never been online. Everyone said that he was all brawn and no brains. Xiao Yichen could be said to be a rare military genius. He could even accurately disassemble every part of a desert eagle within 10 seconds with his eyes closed. However, he could not solve a simple arithmetic problem within 10 seconds. These two sons of his were the best of the best. Especially Yu. He was so black-bellied at such a young age. Not only was he black-bellied, but he was also the ultimate black-bellied. On the surface, he was smiling, but on the inside, he was scheming against you. No one knew who he had inherited his incredible IQ and IQ. There was a saying that went, the new generation excels the old. It was obvious that Yu wanted to slap his father to death on the beach. I'm full. Yu put down his cutlery and rubbed his round belly with satisfaction. He had eaten a lot for dinner and was a little full. Xiao Yichen put down his cutlery and rubbed his round belly as well. He had eaten a lot that night. Yun Shirshir had carefully peeled a lot of crab meat for him and dipped it in sauce. It was delicious. He was greedy and ate a lot. Now he was a little full. After eating his fill, he started to feel sleepy. The two little guys were exhausted from playing in the afternoon, and after playing for so long before dinner, they felt sleepy now. Yu, in particular, yawned a few times in a row, her eyelids drooping. Yun Shirshir looked at the two little buns, pinched their cheeks and asked, Are you sleepy? Okay. Xiao Yichen leaned back in his chair and allowed the sea breeze to caress him. He was extremely comfortable. She really wanted to fall asleep just like that. Mommy, Yu is sleepy. Mommy will sleep with Yu, okay? Yu tugged on Yun Shirshir's sleeve and acted cute. He enjoyed listening to his mother read him bedtime stories. Falling asleep with Mommy's gentle voice was the happiest thing in the world. No. Mu Yaja was the first to stand up and express his opinion. Xiao Yichen also objected, No. This time, the father and son stood on the same side. Yun Tianyu glared at them with a gloomy face and pouted his pink lips. What's wrong with that? You're already 7 years old, yet you're still sleeping with Mommy. Shame on you. Xiao Yichen accused. I've always slept with Mommy, Yu retorted indignantly. I don't care. Anyway, I can't let Mommy sleep with you. Xiao Yichen's sleepiness disappeared. With his hands on his hips, he argued with Yu. Why can't she sleep with me? If Mommy doesn't sleep with me, should she sleep with you? Yu looked at him with disdain. Chapter 770. Yu clearly refused to admit defeat. We haven't even finished the game, so it doesn't count. Xiao Yichen said confidently, Yes, we haven't finished the game, but I have more points than you. Even if we continue, you won't be able to beat me. A game is a game. Besides, I didn't agree to anything you said. You're talking to yourself. Anyway, Mommy will sleep with me. You're cheating. You won't admit defeat now that you've lost the game. This is my first time playing volleyball. I've never played volleyball before. Besides, what do you mean by winning or losing? I clearly went easy on you. If I didn't go easy on you, I would have won long ago. Yu snorted coldly, clearly unconvinced. The two little munchkins faced each other and started to argue. What do you mean you went easy on me? I was the one who went easy on you, okay? Xianxia was so angry that his face turned red. If I didn't go easy on you, you wouldn't have gotten a single point. Xianxia's words were like an arrow that pierced through Yu's heart. It hurt his self-esteem deeply. What do you mean by wouldn't have gotten a single point? That's what I meant. You're not good enough. How can you beat me? I'm not good at sports. I was kind enough to accompany you because you wanted to play. You said that you would sleep with mommy if you won. What kind of lousy condition is that? Yu pouted and glared at him with disdain. Mommy has been sleeping with me all this time. You're the one who wants to monopolize mommy, aren't you? He hit the nail on the head. Little Ichen's face flushed red with shyness. Stop fooling around. Mommy will sleep with you tonight, okay? Xianxia was exasperated. These two little buns fought whenever they didn't like each other. Couldn't they just get along with each other? The two little buns said in unison. I don't want to sleep with him. Wuxia raised his brows slightly. He reached out and pulled Xianxia into his embrace. Then you can sleep on your own. Tonight, your mommy is mine. Yu, Xianxia, Wuxia's thin lips opened slightly. Are you not convinced? Hey, you're so childish too? Xianxia couldn't help but laugh. You're still competing with two kids? Wuxia said seriously, children can't be spoiled. Look at Xianxia, I've never spoiled him. Xianxia felt wronged. Daddy is the worst. He really didn't dare to compete with his daddy. In Xianxia's heart, Wuxia had always been like a god, an existence that everyone revered. I don't care. Mommy will sleep with me anyway. Yu didn't fall for Wuxia's trick. He walked over and pushed Wuxia to the side. He threw himself into Xianxia's embrace and rolled around in her embrace. Mommy, sleep with me tonight. Sleep with me tonight. If mommy doesn't sleep with me, Yu will be scared. This room is so big and dark. What if Yu has nightmares? Sob, sob, sob. Can mommy bear to let Yu sleep alone? His voice was extremely helpless. It trembled slightly and spoke endlessly of his dependence on her. Yu acted cute and coquettishly. Xianxia's heart immediately melted into a river of spring water. She immediately coaxed him. All right, mommy will sleep with Yu. Yu be good. Mommy will read you a story. Then mommy won't sleep with Xianxia. But Xianxia agreed. Mommy, don't sneak away in the middle of the night. Chapter 771. Mommy is the best. Yu loves mommy the most. Yu hugged Xianxia's waist and rubbed his head against her chest like a coquettish kitten. Xianxia's heart could not get any softer, and she had no room to refuse. Yun Tianyou's coquettishness could be said to have reached perfection. Wuxia and Xianxia were dumbfounded. Xianxia carried Yu in her arms, intending to return to the room to tell him a bedtime story. Yu obediently let him be in her arms. His head rested on Xianxia's shoulder with his back facing her. His pair of watery eyes looked at Wuxia and Chen with a provocative expression. You want to fight with me? Yun Tianyu mouthed. Don't think that just because you tricked me and mommy to the beach, you can take advantage of me. With me around, there's no way. Mommy belongs to me. No one can snatch her away. The father and son's faces were filled with anger. This rascal. Wuxia frowned. He's too much. Xianxia clenched his fists tightly. Relying on Xianxia's love for him, he was simply lawless. There was no other way though. Xianxia was most susceptible to this trick of his. His soft, coquettish voice, rubbing against her like a kitten. His adorable way of acting coquettishly left no room for resistance. This rascal at such a young age already knew how to manipulate people's thoughts. What a lunatic! At this moment, the capital was already in an uproar. Yan Bingqing had completely lost her power. Weibo Tieba forms? Including all the media, the public opinion was already on Xianxia's side. Various celebrities in the entertainment industry, be it A-list or C-list celebrities, all came to trample on her. Some of them were celebrities who had some old grudges with her. This was understandable. Some celebrities who were completely unrelated would also throw a basin of dirty water at them. There were even many unknown celebrities who rushed over to take advantage of her popularity. They used her to create hype and use her as a stepping stone. Chaos ensued. Yan Bingqing had never felt so vexed. Everyone kicks a man who is down. She finally experienced this feeling. Over the past few days, Mo Yan had been running around with the people from his studio. Relying on the connections and resources he had accumulated over the years, he kept begging the higher-ups of various parties to be merciful. All the public relations accounts in the studio were blocked. Therefore, Mo Yan could only watch as Huan Yu used public opinion to completely destroy Yan Bingqing's reputation. Even though he called and begged, what Mo Yan received in the end was all kinds of termination letters. The termination letter from Huan Yu, the termination letter from the production team of The Green Apple, and the termination notice from some big fashion brands. Yan Bingqing was also in her element in the fashion industry. She had signed many fashion endorsements. Her commercials had already been filmed and broadcast on TV stations. However, they were boycotted by the public. The hashtag Yan Bingqing get out of the entertainment industry hashtag was also trending and had always been at the top of the trending list. Over the past few days, Yan Bingqing did not have any room to fight back in the face of Huan Yu's indiscriminate attacks. Everyone in the entertainment industry was in a state of panic. In the production team of The Green Apple, everyone knew about Yan Bingqing being blacklisted. Especially those extras and staff who had bullied Xianxia, all of them had lingering fears. Chapter 772. Even Yan Bingqing had been suppressed and banned by Huan Yu after offending her. That was Yan Bingqing, Huan Yu's top actress. She had a high status. Banning her was just a matter of a word. How powerful was Xianxia's background to be able to do this? For a moment, everyone who had offended Xianxia was frightened. However, at the same time, they felt that it was unbelievable. At the same time, they deeply realized that Xianxia's character was really much better than Yan Bingqing's. But regardless of anything else, if anyone had offended Yan Bingqing in the past, with Yan Bingqing's character, who was vengeful, they would definitely be punished. However, they were all safe and sound. Xianxia did not do anything to them. Everyone in the production team had a new understanding of Xianxia and a new impression of her. Especially Yang Mi. She originally thought that Xianxia had some status in Mu Yaja's heart. Using this point, she tried to make use of Xianxia to punish Yan Bingqing. At least, she wanted to stop her from being so arrogant. However, now that Yan Bingqing had been banned from the industry, with Huan Yu suppressing her, she would not be able to climb back up for a while. Anyway, she was completely done for. It seemed that Xianxia had a very important position in Mu Yaja's heart. Yang Mi made up her mind that in the future, she could offend anyone but Xianxia. On the contrary, she had to maintain a good relationship with her. At the Mu residence. When Mu Wanru returned to the Mu residence, it was already evening. The servant immediately came forward and took the coat from her. Mu Wanru asked, "Where's Grandpa?" "Young madam, old master is in the study. Has he taken his medicine?" "It's not time yet. The medicine is brewing." "Okay, I'll go to the study to see Grandpa first," Mu Wanru said as she walked towards the study. In the study, Mu Sheng was engrossed in a photo in his hand. In the photo, Mu Qingsheng was standing in the garden with a bright smile on her face. Mu Sheng's gaze deepened as his withered fingers slowly caressed the photo. Deep nostalgia and sorrow surfaced in his eyes. "Qingsheng, you are so heartless. How can you bear to leave me alone?" Mu Sheng lamented, his eyes filled with grief. There was a sudden knock on the door. The old man was still immersed in his grief and did not return to his senses for a long time. Mu Wanru pushed the door open and entered the room. She saw Mu Sheng sitting by the window with his back facing her. He was engrossed in a photo in his hand. She walked over and gently placed her hand on his shoulder. Startled, he whipped his head around. Seeing that it was her, he calmed down. "Wanru, you're back." "Yes, Grandpa." Mu Wanru walked to him and squatted down. Looking at the photo in his hand, she was slightly startled. She then smiled and said, "Grandpa is looking at Mommy's photo again. I miss her." These two words, miss her, expressed his endless longing for her. Mommy was so beautiful when she was young. Mu Wanru looked at the photo with a hint of sadness on her face. In my memory, Mommy was always so beautiful. She didn't look like an ordinary person at all. She was as beautiful as a fairy. Yes. I still remember the first time I saw your mommy. Her beauty made me unable to take my eyes off her. Mu Sheng sighed. As he spoke, he looked at Mu Wanru's face again. A hint of disappointment flashed across his eyes. She did not look like it. She did not look like it at all. This was what confused him the most. Chapter 773. Be it her eyebrows, eyes, nose, or mouth, the Mu Wanru before him was nothing like the Xianxia in his memory. "Grandpa, what are you looking at?" Mu Wanru could not help touching her face, thinking that there was something strange on it. He answered truthfully, "I'm just looking to see if there are any similarities between you and your mother." Mu Wanru was startled. Her heart skipped a beat, but she quickly forced a smile. "Don't we look alike? How can that be? When I was young, everyone said that I look like my mother." "You don't." He slowly closed his eyes. Mu Qingqing's face and voice appeared clearly in his mind. Whether it was her features or her voice, even after 20 years, he still had a deep impression of her. Mu Qingqing was the most indelible joy in his memory, but also the most indelible pain. Her death was a huge blow to him. He was unable to recover from the setback and was bedridden for a long time, unable to recover from the pain of losing his beloved daughter. The smile on Mu Wanru's face stiffened. "Grandpa, do you still remember how my mother looks like?" "Of course, I remember. I can't forget her face and voice." Mu Sheng sighed. Outside, a servant gently knocked on the door. "Master, the medicine is ready." Mu Wanru raised her voice at once. "Come in." As soon as she said that, the servant entered the study with the medicinal soup. He turned his face away and said, "Take the medicine away, it smells awful." The servant smiled stiffly and respectfully said, "Master, this medicine can't be stopped. Drink it. I told you to take it away, didn't you hear me?" He suddenly slammed the table in a fit of rage. His voice shook the entire study room. The servant was so frightened that her legs almost gave way, and she knelt down. Mu Wanru said, "All right, you can leave." "Young madam, that medicine, all right, I'll persuade Grandpa to drink it. You can leave first lest he gets angry." Mu Wanru waved her hand. The servant respectfully retreated and closed the door. Mu Sheng turned his head to look out of the window, but his eyes gradually became empty. Take the medicine away. I'm not drinking it." "Grandpa, you're throwing a tantrum again. Although this medicine smells bitter, it is good medicine that tastes bitter and cures illness. Drinking it will be good for your body." Mu Wanru walked to his side and gently placed her hand on the back of his hand, patiently consoling him. The old man stubbornly retorted, "What's in it for me?" How many years had he been drinking this medicine, yet his body was still like this. It couldn't be cured. Let it be. Mu Wanru laughed helplessly and said a few words of coaxing. "How can you say that? Grandpa, this medicine is good for your body after all. Let me feed you, okay?" Mu Sheng looked out of the window. He did not say anything, but he did not reject her either. Mu Wanru then stood up and walked behind him. While he was looking out of the window, she secretly took out a small packet of craft paper from her pocket. She carefully tore a small hole in the craft paper and gently sprinkled the white powder into the medicine bowl. She stirred it evenly with a spoon. It was colorless and tasteless. Mu Lianjue's words echoed in her ears. "Don't be fooled by that old man's deteriorating body. I'm afraid he doesn't have many years left to live. Still, whether this old thing is dead or alive, he still holds the power in his hands. With him around, the Mu family's morale is unstable. Only by getting rid of him can I carry out my grand plan." Chapter 774. The old man's gaze remained fixed outside the window as if he were in a trance. His weathered face resembled a withered and decaying branch. His eyes were like dead ashes, devoid of any vigor. He was probably really old. It was as if he would die the next moment. Mu Wanru guessed that, given his situation, he would only have a few more years to live before the candle of life was extinguished. There were still good medicines to cure a person's illness. Alas, there was no cure for his illness. Mu Wanru pursed her lips tightly. With trembling hands, she picked up the medicine bowl and took a deep breath before walking to the old man. Sodium nitrite, a slow-acting poison. Mu Lianjue had ordered her to add 0.1 grams of it to the old man's medicine bowl every day. It would not be fatal immediately, but long-term consumption would lead to death within a month. As long as the old man was alive, Mu Lianjue would not be able to execute his plan with power in his hands. Hence, her priority was to poison the old man to death. This old man, who treated her as his own and loved her dearly, whom she had always called Grandpa. There was still a shred of conscience in her heart that was struggling. Mu Wanru had the urge to smash the medicine bowl on the floor several times. It was not that she did not have feelings for the old man. If he had not brought her back to the Mu family and doted on her like a princess, she would not even know how miserable she would have been in this life. She was the one who had lied to him about everything. She was clearly not Mu Qingqing's daughter, yet she had shamelessly possessed everything. Be it food or clothing, she had not skimped on anything Mu Yaja had. In fact, she had received more love from him than Mu Yaja. Without a doubt, the old man was the only person in the world who trusted and loved her unconditionally. 15 years of feelings could not win against benefits, after all. Mu Wanru's hands could not help but tremble. She kept weighing the pros and cons in her heart, but she could not make up her mind. A human's heart was made of flesh. She was not a cold person after all. Every time she thought of how much the old man doted on her and how she had poisoned her closest kin, the bowl of medicine in his hands seemed to weigh 1,000 pounds. Mu Wanru hesitated and put the bowl back on the table. She took a deep breath, but she couldn't calm her thundering heartbeat. Mu Lianjue's cold and mellow voice seemed to threaten her. How can I carry out my grand plan if that old fart doesn't die? If he doesn't die, you won't be able to keep your position either. If you don't dare to make a move because of his love for you, what will he think when your identity is exposed sooner or later? The adopted daughter that he painstakingly raised and doted on for 15 years turned out to be a fake. Guess what will happen when he flies into a rage out of shame? He will definitely kill you. Mu Wanru was suddenly frightened. Her eyes widened, and her entire body trembled uncontrollably due to extreme fear. If Mu Xing knew that her identity was fake, that she was not Mu Qingqing's biological daughter, and that she had been using this identity for 15 years, would he fly into a rage out of humiliation and really kill them all? No way. She didn't want to die. Don't think that Mu Xing is old now. When he was younger, he was a ruthless figure in the business and political world. How much bloodshed did he cause? Mu Lianjue's frightening words still echoed in her ears. Chapter 775. She tried her best to quell the conflict in her heart, as well as her deep fear of the old man, as she slowly walked up to him. Grandpa, the medicine is almost cold. It won't be as effective once it's cold. Shall I feed it to you while it's hot? Mu Wanru asked as she squatted beside him and stirred the medicine with a spoon. He nodded lightly, but his mind seemed to be elsewhere as he did not look at her. He often looked out of the window in a daze, and his gaze was always on the Mu family's back garden. Rumor had it that the Mu residence's back garden was meticulously taken care of by Mu Qingqing. She loved flowers, especially Chinese roses. Hence, the Mu residence's back garden was once filled with colorful blossoms. From afar, it was unbelievably beautiful. Mu Qingqing loved to trim the flowers in the back garden. In the afternoon, she would sit on the swing leisurely. Ever since she passed away, the back garden had been barren for a long time. The Chinese roses she planted had withered and rotted due to neglect. The servants wanted to cut the flowers and replant them, but the old man flew into a rage and forbade anyone from entering the back garden, let alone touching an inch of the land there. The back garden of the Mu residence had once become a forbidden area. No one was allowed to enter. The petals withered and fell to the ground. The back garden had been barren for several seasons. Finally, the old man ordered people to take care of it again, but he did not let them plant any more Chinese roses. He was afraid that he would be reminded of the past. "Grandpa, come." Mu Wanru scooped up the medicine and fed it to him. He slowly opened his mouth and swallowed the medicine. His eyes, however, were still looking out of the window with sorrow and trepidation. Suddenly, a line of tears overflowed from his eyes and rolled down his cheeks. They dripped into the medicine bowl with a plop. Silence reigned. Mu Wanru saw his teary eyes and stood up helplessly. She carefully asked, "Grandpa, what's wrong?" The old man remained expressionless and did not say a word. No one knew that today was the anniversary of Mu Qingqing's death. On this day, he would sit in the study room and quietly admire the scenery in the back garden. Today, however, the Chinese roses were no longer in full bloom. On the swing, the carefree figure could no longer be seen. Mu Wanru did not understand why he suddenly cried. She only lowered her head in fear and continued to feed him the medicine until there was not a single drop left in the bowl. The kingdom of love is a peaceful and prosperous country. Every day, there is singing and dancing, praising and thanking the officials. The king is also a righteous person. One day, the king brought his most beloved daughter, the 5-year-old Love, out on an inspection tour. Because Love was kind-hearted, she treated the maids like her own family. In order not to be discovered, the king only brought 2 guards with him. On the bed, Xianxia held a book of fairy tales in her hands. She flipped to a story titled, "The Real and Fake Princess," and found it interesting, so she read it to Yun Tianyu. Yun Tianyu leaned into her embrace. Amid her gentle and soft voice, his eyelids drooped and his eyes drooped sleepily. Suddenly, the bedroom door was slowly pushed open. Xiao Yichen peeked inside. He had just taken a bath and changed into his pajamas. He tossed and turned in bed, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not fall asleep. The spacious room only felt cold and cheerless. Chapter 776. Pushing the door open, he saw Xianxia reading a story to Yuyu. Yuyu's eyes were closed, seemingly asleep. Xianxia's voice gradually softened. Seeing that the child had entered dreamland, she wanted to end the story. Xiao Yichen, however, stood at the door and pitifully asked, "Mommy, can you finish the story? I still want to hear more." Xianxia looked in the direction of the voice and saw Xiao Yichen squatting at the door with his head in his hands. She did not know how long he had been there. "Why are you squatting there?" Xianxia did not know whether to laugh or cry. "I can't sleep, so I want to hear Mommy's story." Xiao Yichen cupped his little face. His chubby face was pink and tender, looking very adorable. He squinted his eyes and let out a crisp and gentle laugh. "Mommy's voice is so nice, and this story is so fun. Can Mommy continue to tell it to me? I really want to know what happened to this princess." Xianxia gently curled her lips as she patted the edge of the bed lightly. Xiao Yichen's heart skipped a beat and he carefully closed the door. Afraid that the noise would wake Yun Tianyu up, he tiptoed to the bed. Xianxia reached out and pulled him into her embrace. Xiao Yichen blushed. No one had ever read him a fairy tale before he slept. Standing at the door and watching Xianxia gently caress Yun Tianyu's hair as she read the story, he suddenly felt envious of his younger brother. For the past 7 years, Mommy would read him a fairy tale every day before he slept. How blissful! He was really envious. In the Mu residence, before he slept, he could only hug his doll and fall asleep in the cold room. It was very lonely. "Mommy, continue reading." Xiao Yichen looked up at her expectantly. Xianxia nodded. But who would have thought that a group of traders in the palace would find out that the king was out on an inspection tour? They would send all kinds of martial arts masters to kill the king on the way. The king and the others did not know that when they were in high spirits, a few masked men suddenly appeared, scaring them into sweating profusely. The 2 loyal guards tried their best to protect the king and Princess Love, but Princess Love was still knocked unconscious. The king thought that she was dead, so he didn't have time to bring her body back, so he quickly ran away. Xianxia said, "Mommy, is this princess really dead?" "No, I just thought that the princess was dead." "Then the king must be very sad." "But why didn't the king leave with the princess?" Xianxia was stunned. She was amused by Xiao Yichen's persistent thirst for knowledge. It must be too late, right? At that time, many people were after the king. The princess is so pitiful, Xiao Yichen said with pity. But the princess didn't die. 14 years later, the king heard that Princess Love was still alive, so he sent someone to put up a notice. Whoever can find Princess Love will be rewarded handsomely. Also, the princess has a heart-shaped jade pendant with her. When she read this, she was inexplicably stumped for a moment and did not continue her sentence. A heart-shaped jade pendant? Xiao Yichen widened his eyes in curiosity. Is it a token? Yes. Xiao Yichen suddenly understood and his eyes lit up. There must be only one jade pendant in the world. Then, the person who has this jade pendant must be the princess. Mommy, did the king find the princess? Don't worry, Mommy will continue reading. Chapter 777. Yun Shishir smiled and shook off those messy thoughts. She continued to read. A 19-year-old female fugitive from the Dark Kingdom escaped here. Her name is Jin Ling. She is very beautiful and has been very scheming since she was young. When she grew up, her parents died. She was chosen by the king of the Dark Kingdom and was given the title of Empress. However, she didn't know how to repay kindness. She conspired with the prime minister to usurp the throne. The king saw through her and she escaped all the way here. A bad woman? Yes, a bad person. Yun Shishir turned the page and continued to read. When she saw the notice, Jin Ling was very happy. This Princess Love is about the same age as me. I can pretend to be her and avoid the limelight of being hunted down. I can also enjoy a lifetime of glory and wealth. Therefore, Jin Ling invited the best sculptor in the city to sculpt her a love jade pendant that was exactly the same as the description on the notice. However, she didn't know that the real love jade pendant would break when it was dropped. In order to not cause more trouble, Jin Ling killed that person. Then, she pretended to take the jade pendant and entered the palace. When the king saw her and the jade pendant, tears streamed down his face as he poured out his longing for her. Jin Ling also pretended to cry, but in her heart, she was crying for success. Thus, she became a princess. This woman actually pretended to be a princess? When Xiao Yichen heard this, he suddenly clenched his fists in indignation. He was very angry. Then where is the real princess? The real princess was adopted by a fisherman's family. No one knew her name, but seeing that she was very naive, they all called her Xinxin. She lived happily with her adoptive parents. Although she knew that the fisherman couple wasn't her biological parents, she didn't know who her biological parents were. There was only a real love jade pendant by her side. Although the love jade pendant was only 18 years old, she was as beautiful as a flower. Because her family was poor, she could only go to the palace to be a maid. The head eunuch asked her to serve the princess. So pitiful. Xiao Yichen clenched his fists even more. A sad expression appeared on his handsome little face. He was completely immersed in the story and felt distressed for the princess. One day, the king and the fake princess were having a meal. The king recalled the past and suddenly wanted to see the love jade pendant. The fake princess took off her jade pendant disapprovingly. When she was about to give it to the king, the real princess happened to bump into the fake princess while carrying a dish. The jade pendant fell to the ground, but it didn't break. The princess cursed, "You dog slave! How dare you touch the most important thing to me and my father? How dare you?" When the real princess heard this, she was so scared that she knelt on the ground. "This servant deserves to die. Please forgive me, princess." Xiao Yichen suddenly sat down on the bed. His heart clenched as the story progressed. This fake princess is really bad. How annoying. She was clearly not the real princess, but she had actually replaced the identity of the real princess. Did the king not realize that the princess was a fake? It's too much. Yun Shishir couldn't help but laugh. The king doesn't know that the princess is a fake. And then? What happened after that? Xiao Yichen asked anxiously. Chapter 778. Is the king going to find out that the princess is a fake? Xiao Yichen suddenly said angrily, "This king is so stupid. How can he not tell the difference between a real princess and a fake one?" Dog servant, Quickly pick up the jade pendant. The fake princess shouted again. The real princess picked up the jade pendant and looked at it carefully. Why is it exactly the same as mine? After serving the princess, Aixin ran to an old palace maid in the palace to ask about the jade pendant. The palace maid told her the cause of the matter. Although the maid didn't mention that she was the princess, she already knew her identity based on her intuition and the jade pendant. She was very upset and wanted to confess to her father, but could the king trust a maid and not the princess by his side? He couldn't. Xianxia slowly flipped to the next page. However, Xianxia's sharp eyes noticed that Xianxia's fingertips were trembling slightly as she held the fairy tale book. Little Ichen's heart skipped a beat as he gently held her hand. "Mommy, are you feeling unwell?" "No." Xianxia pursed her lips and continued to read. In the dead of night, the king couldn't sleep because of what happened today, so he took a walk in the palace alone. Suddenly, he heard a girl crying from the maid's room. The king couldn't help but walk there. He saw a girl holding a heart-shaped jade pendant and crying in front of the maid's room. The king took a big step forward and couldn't help but shout, "Daughter!" The heart-shaped jade pendant was frightened and looked up. When she saw the king, she loosened her grip and the jade pendant fell to the ground and shattered. The father and daughter hugged each other tightly. "Wow," Xianxia suddenly said emotionally, "the king finally found the princess." Perhaps because he was too excited, Xianxia's voice woke Yu up. The latter frowned and turned over slightly. He buried his little face in Xianxia's arms and fell asleep again. Xianxia tensed up, thinking that he was going to wake his little brother up. Seeing that he had fallen asleep again, she heaved a sigh of relief and smiled at Xianxia. The fake princess, Jin Ling, was found guilty of deceiving the emperor and offending his superiors. She should be beheaded. The love of the real princess announced to the world that it had been confirmed and allowed the loving adoptive parents, the fisherman couple, to live a good life. The kingdom of love is living a peaceful life again. After she finished reading the story, Xianxia remained in a daze for a long time. Xianxia also had a lot on her mind. She was silent for a long time, and the room was silent for a while. "That king is so stupid," Xianxia suddenly said in disdain. "You can't even recognize your own daughter. You're so stupid." "You wouldn't recognize it either." Xianxia didn't know whether to laugh or cry. "It's been more than 10 years. The princess has grown up and must look different from when she was young. That's why the king didn't recognize her." However, Xianxia said firmly, "No, Mommy, you're wrong. I'm not as stupid as the king. If I were that king, I would definitely recognize my princess at a glance." Xianxia's expression was firm and serious. But Xianxia was suddenly stunned. "Because if I were the king, I would definitely love my daughter deeply. As a father, how could I not recognize my own daughter?" Chapter 779. Little Ichin suddenly reached out his arms and hugged her waist tightly. Looking a little shy, he said, "Just like the first time I saw Mommy, I felt that Mommy gave me a warm and affectionate feeling. Do you know, Mommy? Before I met you, I would always dream of you." "Dream of me?" Xianxia widened her eyes in shock. She found his words unbelievable. He was just a child, wasn't he? When he was born, he was taken away by the Mu family. Mother and son had never seen each other. How did he dream of her? "It's true. Xianxia never lies." Xianxia looked up. The warm and charming smile in his eyes warmed Xianxia's heart. She couldn't help but hug him. "Although I couldn't see Mommy's face clearly in my dreams, I could feel the warmth from Mommy's body. I often dreamed of my little brother running in front of me. I chased after him, but no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't catch up with him. I always thought that it was a dream. I didn't expect that I really had a little brother and a mommy." Xianxia closed his eyes gently as he spoke. "Some people say that it's telepathy." Telepathy? She didn't believe it in the past. Now she found it magical. "Mommy, we've already missed each other for 7 years. Can we never be separated again? We can always be together." After hearing the fairy tale, Xianxia was deeply moved. He couldn't help but hug Xianxia's waist tightly. 7 years. 7 years of separation was neither a long nor a short period of time for her. However, to Xiao Yichen, he had been missing his mother's company for as long as he could remember. He envied Yu all the time. He wanted to spend the rest of his life with his mommy and never be separated again. Yun Shishir slowly hugged Xiao Yichen and said with a choked voice, "Xiao Yichen, mommy has been missing you for the past 7 years. In mommy's heart, you're as important as Yu." Xiao Yichen blushed when he heard this. He was overjoyed. Mommy said that in her heart, he was as important as Yu. Mommy, in Xiao Yichen's heart, you're as important as Daddy. It was a soft and cute confession, full of warmth. Yu slowly opened her eyes. Her eyelids drooped as she pursed her lips. Mommy said that in her heart, Xiao Yichen was as important as him. At the same time, he felt a sense of loss in his heart. However, he did not feel an inexplicable rejection like before. It was understandable that Mommy liked Xiao Yichen. Mu Yichen was his older brother, and they shared the same blood. It was only natural that Mommy doted on him. However, he was certain that in Mommy's heart, she felt guilty toward Xiao Yichen. Compared to Mu Yichen, Mommy probably loved him more. Even if it was just a little, Yu's thoughts ran wild. He felt helpless and could not help but hug Yun Shishir even tighter. Yun Shishir was stunned. She thought that he had woken up. She turned to look and saw that Yu's eyes were tightly shut. He looked quiet and obedient, as if he was still in dreamland. She patted Xiao Yichen's forehead and said softly, "Go to sleep." "But, good night, Mommy." Xiao Yichen tucked her in but forgot to take care of himself. This kid was just like Yu. They both knew how to care for others. Chapter 780. Yun Tianyu closed his eyes too, but he suddenly felt a warmth on the back of his hand. Startled, he opened his eyes and saw a small hand on the back of his. It was soft and warm. The hand was slightly bigger than his, so it was just right to wrap around his small hand. Yu raised his head slightly. His body was quiet and did not make a sound. Looking past Yun Shishir, he saw Xiao Yichen burying his face in the blanket with his eyes tightly shut. His hand was gently placed on the back of his hand. Suddenly, he held his hand and interlocked their fingers. Both of them wore the same amethyst necklace. Under the bright moonlight outside the window, it emitted a beautiful and shimmering radiance. That was a gift from Xiao Yichen. It was of the same design, and he was wearing the same bracelet on his wrist. "I picked this out for you as a gift. Do you like it?" "You haven't answered my question. Do you like it?" He still remembered how carefully Xiao Yichen put the bracelet on him. His actions were sincere and gentle. At that moment, he almost blurted out, "I like it." He liked this necklace. He liked it because it was very beautiful. He once suspected that Xiao Yichen had personally picked it. He did not believe that his brother had such taste. He liked it. That was because this was the first gift from Xiao Yichen. He cherished it from the bottom of his heart and could not bear to open it because even the packaging was exquisite. However, because of his awkward personality, he found it difficult to say those 2 words out loud. He always felt that it was a very embarrassing thing. Although he had not accepted Xiao Yichen on the surface, deep down, he had already accepted him as his brother. Yu looked at Xiao Yichen's peaceful sleeping face and could not calm down for a moment. His features were so similar to his. When the two of them stood together, it was like looking into a mirror. If one did not look at their height and figure, one would not be able to tell them apart. The image of little Yichen chasing after him seemed to appear in his mind as he nervously asked, "Daddy, Mommy, do you think it's good for me to live with you in the same house?" A family of 4 living together. This was something he didn't even dare to think about in the past. He always felt that it was too much to hope for. Yu's eyes flickered, and her gaze fell on the amethyst necklace in her hand. Her eyes reflected the purple luster, and her pink lips couldn't help but open. "I do." Yu subconsciously opened his mouth. When he realized that he had said those 2 words, he was shocked. He bit his lip hard, but he couldn't take back his words. He couldn't help but feel embarrassed. He nervously looked at Mu Yichen, only to see that the little fellow seemed to have fallen asleep and was not disturbed by his voice. Maybe he's asleep? So, she probably didn't hear what he said just now. Yu's expression finally returned to normal, and he sighed softly. Sometimes, It was hard to say the truth. He always said things that didn't mean. Actually, he really liked Xiao Yichen's gift, but when he looked at his face, it was hard for him to say the word, like. Yu lay down again and slowly closed his eyes. Drowsiness overwhelmed him, and he quickly fell asleep. However, on the other side, Xiao Yichen slowly opened his eyes. The corners of his mouth curved into a happy smile. Chapter 781. Early the next morning, Yu was shrouded in a nightmare. His forehead was drenched in cold sweat. In his dream, he was surrounded by two walls. He could only feel a stifling pressure on him, making it hard for him to breathe. He tried his best to escape, but no matter how hard he tried, he could not escape. He could only watch helplessly as the two huge walls slowly closed in on him. Just as he was about to suffocate, he woke up with a start. In his hazy sleepiness, he only felt that it was unusually crowded. Yu opened his eyes wider and looked up, only to see Xianxia's sleeping face. Startled, he tried to sit up on the bed. Just as he turned over, he saw Muyaja's handsome face right in front of him. Muyaja! Why is he sleeping here too? When did he squeeze in here? An inexplicable feeling rose in his heart. He wanted to sit up, but he felt a heavy weight pressing down on him. He immediately looked down and did not know what was pressing down on him. He did not know when Xiao Yichen had half his body on top of him and one of his legs was hanging on Muyaja's long legs. He struggled slightly and sat up. Only then did he get a clear view of the bed's layout. Mommy was hugging him, and Muyaja was hugging her. He was sandwiched in the middle. The two walls in his dream were probably because he was sandwiched between them. Xianxia's sleeping posture was more peaceful and well-behaved. The most restless one was none other than Xiao Yichen. Half of his body was on top of Xianxia's lower body and the other leg was hanging on her body. His sleeping posture could only be described as horrible. No wonder he felt that he could not breathe in his sleep. He only had nightmares with such a heavy guy on top of him. This guy. His sleeping posture was too unsightly. Yu pushed Xiao Yichen's head in dissatisfaction, only to see Xiao Yichen turn over. His whole body was on top of him, and one of his legs was on top of Muyaja's face. In his sleep, Muyaja pushed Xiao Yichen's leg away unhappily. Little Yichen's brows furrowed slightly as he unhappily placed his foot on it. Muyaja pushed it away again. Xiao Yichen put his leg up again. The father-son pair seemed to be in a standoff. Yu rolled his eyes. It was still early in the morning, and he had not yet woken up. He had accumulated a bellyful of anger, yet he had nowhere to vent it. In a fit of anger, he grabbed Xiao Yichen's ear and twisted it. Ouch! Xiao Yichen woke up from the pain. He rolled on the bed and got up. He looked around for a while and saw Yu's sleepy eyes filled with anger. What's wrong? Xiao Yichen rubbed his eyes and asked innocently. Look at you. How did you sleep? Yu crossed his arms in front of his chest and used him as an excuse. Little Yichen lowered his head to take a look and was baffled. What's wrong? Didn't I sleep well? You're on top of me. Are you trying to crush me to death? Yu questioned him with an aggrieved expression. Xiao Yichen rubbed his messy forehead and looked up at the sky. He pursed his lips and looked like he was about to cry. I didn't do it on purpose. You're so fierce. Also, I didn't put all my weight on you. Yichen, do you always sleep in such a barbaric manner? Yu narrowed his eyes dangerously. How am I barbaric when I sleep? Chapter 782. No, I'm not. How is my sleeping posture barbaric? If this isn't barbaric, do you want to go to heaven? Yu exploded as he pinched his cheeks and ravaged them. Xiao Yichen had just woken up and was still in a daze. He did not react to Yu's ravaging of his cheeks and only wanted to sleep. Plop. Xiao Yichen collapsed on top of him. His whole body was on top of him. Yu's eyes widened in shock. He reached out to push him away, only to hear Xiao Yichen's face pressing against his as he mumbled sleepily. I'm so sleepy. Brother, let's sleep for a while more, okay? Get up. Woo-woo. I'm clearly not awake yet. Xiao Yichen acted coquettishly on top of him. Yu was pinned down by him and could not move. He did not even have the strength to struggle as he cried out aggrievedly, Mommy, Mommy. Save me. Muichin, get off me right now. Do you hear me? You're crushing me to death. Yun Shirshir was awakened from her dream by Yun Tianyou's cry for help. She thought that something had happened, but when she opened her eyes, she saw Xiao Yichen lying limply on her brother's body. She did not know whether to laugh or cry. Mommy, save me. Mu Yichen is so heavy, I can't breathe with him on top of me, Yu whined coquettishly. His small, handsome face was on the verge of tears. Xiao Yichen, be good and get off your brother. Yun Shirshir went to carry Xiao Yichen as she coaxed him. Xiao Yichen shook his head unwillingly. No, I want to sleep with my brother. Yun Shirshir, Yun Tianyou angrily said, I'm ordering you to get off of me, I'm heavy. No, your body is so soft. It's so comfortable to sleep on your body. Mu Yichen, hurry up and come down. Ah, Shu, lower your voice. Don't wake the great demon king. What great demon king? Daddy is the great demon king. He has a very bad temper when he wakes up. If you wake him up, it will be very scary. Yun Tianyou, the short 3-day holiday ended very quickly. Mu Yaja took Yun Shirshir for a follow-up examination. The doctor said that her injuries had almost recovered, and it would be best if she recuperated for a few more days. Then, there would not be any major problems and there would not be any sequelae. The two little munchkins who were standing behind him heard the conversation. They looked at each other and finally calmed down. Yun Shirshir was naturally very happy that her injuries had recovered. She planned to rest for a few days before returning to the set to continue filming. After sending the two children home, Yun Shirshir planned to go to the supermarket to buy some daily necessities. Muizha was, of course, the one in charge of driving her. Yun Shirshir went to the supermarket to buy many daily necessities. While pushing the trolley, she compared the different styles of products in front of the display cabinets. Mu Yaja stood beside her. Seeing her focused look, he found it a little strange. What are you looking at? I'm looking at the price. I'll buy whichever is cheaper. Yun Shirshir was already used to comparing prices. Her salary was not high in the past, so she had to calculate everything carefully. Every time she returned to the supermarket, she would take a while to carefully compare the price-performance ratio before buying it. After returning home, she would carefully record it. Even though she no longer needed to live frugally, she still couldn't get rid of this habit. Which color do you like? Chapter 783. This is a black and white checkered one. He preferred simple colors and designs. He didn't like things with complicated patterns. Yun Shirshir made a mental note of it. In the car, Yun Shirshir sent Lin Fengtian a WeChat message to inform him. Not long after, perhaps because Lin Fengtian wasn't busy, he replied with a long reply. Sure, where have you been these few days? You weren't at the hospital, and I couldn't get through to your phone. I originally brought the crew to the hospital to visit you, but the doctor said that you were discharged. You were discharged so early. Why don't you rest for a while? I went on a vacation to relax, Yun Shirshir replied with a smiley face. Lin Fengtian replied, Oh, it's good to go out to relax. I was busy with the crew and couldn't visit you in time. I'm sorry. Director Lin, don't say that. You're a big director with a lot of work to do every day. You must be busy. She teased him mischievously. Lin Fengtian replied with a string of ellipses. Then he sent another message. Rest for a while. Welcome back to the crew. Okay, thank you. You still plan to return to the crew? Mu Yaja looked straight ahead and asked. Yun Shirshir nodded. They stopped at a traffic light. Mu Yaja suddenly turned to look at her and said, I'll take care of you. Yun Shirshir didn't react for a moment and looked at him. However, when she came back to her senses and heard what he said, her expression changed. What do you mean? Literally. Mu Yaja looked at her deeply. Shirshir, I'll take care of you. So, don't act or work. Just stay by my side. Yun Shirshir stared at him in a daze. She couldn't react for a long time. She didn't know why, but generally speaking, when a man said this to a woman, most women would feel very happy. However, when she heard such words from Mu Yaja, for some reason she felt a little unhappy. Mu Yaja fixed his eyes on her, only to see her silent, handsome eyebrows slightly raised, What? Listening to what I said, you seem unhappy? The red light turned green, but Mu Yaja didn't react immediately. It wasn't until the irritable honking behind him alerted him that he turned his gaze to the front. He stepped on the accelerator and the car continued to move forward. The mottled shadows of the trees outside the window kept flashing by. The sun shone through the window, warming the room. Mu Yaja, are you willing to raise me? Yes. Mu Yaja's lips curled into a smile. He thought it was a happy thing to raise the woman he loved. Moreover, he had a magnificent empire of wealth. Did his woman need to go out to work and be looked down upon by others? When he thought of that day when Yan Bingqing had slapped her, his heart throbbed with pain. In his heart, blacklisting her was still letting her off lightly. This kind of woman, who dared to touch his woman, deserved to die. However, when he thought of her returning to the set, to the smoky entertainment industry, there would be a second Yan Bingqing, and a third Yan Bingqing. He was worried. He couldn't bear for her to be wronged, that was all. I'll take care of you. Mu Yaja controlled the steering wheel. So, you don't have to return to that set anymore. I don't want it, she replied blandly. Mu Yaja looked at her with surprise. But, why did you say no? Chapter 784. What's so strange about it? I just feel that it's very strange. You don't let me work or film, so what do you want me to do? Be a housewife quietly at home, like most Japanese wives who only need to stay at home and quietly wait for their husband's return? You said that you're raising me, but I feel that I'm no different from a canary in a cage. She calmly stated her point of view, and every word of her point of view made Mu Yaja's heart flutter. The Mu family was a standard patriarchal family. Perhaps some views were deeply ingrained in his heart, but Yun Shishir would ruthlessly break these ideas every time. Women needed to work. Women needed to be financially independent. Women couldn't rely on men all the time. She was indeed different from other women. Take the entertainment industry, for example. Many female celebrities entered the entertainment industry for nothing more than the competition for fame and fortune. They longed to stand out, and even more so, they longed to fly up into the branches and become a phoenix, marrying into a wealthy family and becoming a young mistress of a prestigious family. Women in wealthy families were indeed like canaries in a cage. Everything revolved around the center of the man. On the surface, they seemed to be endlessly glamorous, but in reality, in order to maintain the appearance of prosperity and vanity, they were physically and mentally exhausted. Even so, there were still many women who flocked to this cage like a flock of ducks. However, she only wanted to escape from such a cage. How can you compare yourself to those women? Mu Yaja unhappily grabbed her chin and kissed her lips unhappily. You're not a canary, you're my woman. Yun Shishir was stunned, and her eyes widened in astonishment. Mu Yaja continued, you're different from them. I said that I'm raising you because you're too stupid and get bullied all day long. How am I stupid? She waved her fist and protested unhappily. Mu Yaja grabbed her hand and said, if you want to work, if you want to film, that's fine. But don't let yourself be wronged. If you're bullied, I'll be very angry. Really angry. When he saw her being humiliated by Yan Bingqing, he almost couldn't control himself and turned the entire crew upside down. Yun Shishir was secretly shocked and looked at him. Her heart warmed as she smiled and said, all right, I won't let myself be wronged and bullied by others anymore. Did I do that for the sake of the big picture? For the sake of the big picture, you don't care about yourself? Mu Yaja said coldly, do you know, my heart will ache? However, his voice stopped abruptly. There were some words that he found hard to say. Yun Shishir blinked. Seeing that he still had something to say, she asked curiously, no what? Nothing. Mu Yaja reached out and rubbed her hair, but he couldn't help but poke her eyebrows. Woman, I realize that sometimes, you really are a blockhead. What's wrong now? There are so many women in the industry who want to get close to me. You're turning a blind eye to such a big backer? Yun Shishir's peach blossom eyes were bright and beautiful. She smiled faintly and said, of course, I'm relying on you. Why wouldn't I rely on you? But it was strange. Who would beg others to rely on their backers? Yun Shishir pursed her lips and smiled. Sometimes she thought that this man was quite cute. She hadn't been in the capital these few days and didn't know what had happened in the capital. She also didn't know that Yan Bingqing had been blacklisted. Chapter 785. She just did not want them to worry about these things. Therefore, Yun Shirshir did not know what kind of embarrassing situation Yan Bingqing was in at the moment. She felt as if there was a fishbone stuck in her chest when she thought about how she would have to fight with this hateful woman after joining the cast. It was extremely uncomfortable. What should she do? She hated Yan Bingqing so much and did not want to see her at all. She was very unhappy when she thought about how she would have to see that disgusting face every day when she returned to the cast. She had a temper too. She had tolerated her on set because she did not want to cause any trouble. She heard that Yan Bingqing was arranged by the investor and that Yan Bingqing could get the role because of her background. That was why she could do whatever she wanted in the cast. Although Yan Bingqing and her agent had specially come to the hospital to apologize to her, she had also given Yan Bingqing a lot of cold shoulders on the spot because of Mu Yaja's power. Yan Bingqing was probably going to die of anger because of her. Yun Shirshir pursed her lips. To be honest, she had felt secretly satisfied when she had humiliated Yan Bingqing. But when she thought about how she would have to meet this woman again when she returned to the cast, she did not know what she would do to hurt her. Yun Shirshir felt inexplicably irritated. The car slowly drove into the underground car park and stopped in the parking space. Yun Shirshir glanced at Mu Yaja's handsome side profile, which was hidden in the shadows, and thought about it. How about, she thought to herself. Yun Shirshir's lips curled into a smile. She stretched out her arms and her enchanting body slowly leaned forward and wrapped around his neck. A trace of surprise flashed across Mu Yaja's eyes. He saw her leaning slightly closer to him and whispering in his ear. This soft and gentle call seemed to be able to make one's bones go soft. He had never heard a voice that was more moving than this. It turned out that his name sounded so good when she said it. This woman actually took the initiative to court him? Or was she trying to seduce him with her beauty? Mu Yaja looked at her with an astonished expression, only to see that in the dim light of the basement, her face and ears were flushed pink. She softly snuggled up to him, her eyes coquettish and seductive, extremely alluring. She was like a little demon who could charm all living beings. He raised his eyebrows playfully. This woman, being so attentive, it seemed like she had something to ask of him. Can you promise me something? Yun Shirshir whispered in his ear. He closed his eyes and smelled the fresh fragrance on her body. Some of his thoughts could no longer be suppressed and became restless. Reaching out his arm, he held her shoulders and pulled her into his embrace. He couldn't help but gently bite her pink ear. Stupid woman, are you trying to seduce me with your beauty? Sure enough, he saw her softly stick to him and smiled coquettishly. Can you do me a favor? What is it? That Yan Bingqing, can you kick her out? Yun Shirshir narrowed her eyes and smiled. I don't want to be in the same production team as her. Mu Yaja gave a deep smile when he heard that. Yan Bingqing? He had already blacklisted her and removed her from the cast of The Green Apple. Moreover, Yan Bingqing's videos had already been cut and her role would be played by another person. She didn't know about it yet. Did she think that Yan Bingqing was still on the set? Chapter 786. He wanted to hear how this woman would beg him. She rarely asked him to do something for her. Are you afraid of her? Mu Yaja pulled her into his arms, grabbed her chin, and smiled. Not necessarily. That day when Yan Bingqing came to the hospital to apologize to you, you were so fierce with your little mouth. After saying that, he couldn't help but lower his head and gently seal her lips. His pearly white teeth nibbled on her soft lips, and he was a little infatuated with the fresh fragrance between her lips and teeth. For a moment, he didn't pay attention to his strength and bit her painfully. Yun Shirshir's eyes were tinged with a hint of coquettishness, and she bit him back hard. She pressed her lips tightly against his thin lips, caressed his face, and said slowly in a coquettish tone, "Who's afraid of her? I just think that she's quite disgusting. If she were to play any tricks again, it would be quite annoying. Moreover, her acting skills are so bad. I'm so tired that I'm practically peeling off a layer of water from acting with her. Why don't we just kick this kind of actress out of the production team? Please. It was rare for her to act coquettishly. Her soft and coquettish tone made one feel numb in their bones. Her delicate little mouth pressed tightly against his thin lips, her breath smelling like orchids, and her pair of charming eyes met his handsome ones. Her charming eyes seemed to have an electric current. Wuxia only felt a current from his heart to his limbs and bones, and a burning sensation suddenly came from his lower abdomen. It was boiling hot and terrifying. His eyes gradually deepened, and there was a deep desire in the depths of his eyes that didn't need to be concealed at all. He was straightforward and explicit. "Woman, you're asking the right person." He suddenly held the back of her neck, and his tall and imposing body pressed against her. "Dealing with Yan Bingqing is just a matter of saying a word. I can shut her out of the industry. The question is, what are you going to do next?" Wuxia waited for her performance. He wanted to see what this woman would do. Xianxia's eyes flashed. This man was obviously using this as a pretext to tempt her. She thought that if she wanted him to shut out Yan Bingqing, she only needed to say a few nice words and act coquettishly, and it would be a matter of course. But she didn't expect that this vile man actually had conditions. Wuxia pressed his body down, his dark and deep eyes fixed on her face, looking forward to her performance when she wanted to please him. For a moment, she did not understand the meaning behind his words. "What do you mean?" "What do you mean, woman? It's impossible for me to not have conditions when you ask me to do something." Click. Two. The partitions slowly rose, blocking the transparent windows, and separating the inside and outside of the car into two different worlds. He casually pressed the button, and the atmosphere lights in the car lit up with a purple light. At this moment, the private car park was surrounded by darkness. "You have conditions?" Xianxia's lips were a little stiff. "What conditions?" He slowly attached himself to her ear, and his sexy and charming voice whispered in her ear, "Woman, please me, Chapter 787. At this moment, Wuxia was like a strategist. In fact, when it came to relationships, the man was usually the one who took the initiative. Xianxia, in particular, was the passive party most of the time. He wanted to see how she would perform if she were to take the initiative in this matter. Xianxia pursed her lips, feeling like retreating a little. Wuxia glanced at the flickering light in her eyes and teased, "Why? You don't dare? What's there to be afraid of?" Xianxia refused to admit her mistake. "I just don't know how to. I'll teach you." With that, Wuxia bent his head and kissed her. The moment he kissed her, she was still as delicious and tempting as before. The tip of his tongue kept rubbing against her lips, infatuated with the sweet taste between her lips and teeth. However, no matter how much he kissed, he could not get enough of it. Her little mouth was like the most addictive poison in the world, and he wanted more after tasting it. During their vacation on the island, with Yun Tianyou's interference, he did not have the chance to be intimate with her. His body was already tense from yearning for her. He wanted her very much. Especially when he kissed her lips, the desire buried in his body became more and more clamorous and restless. Hugging her, his arms slowly slid down to her waist and gently kneaded her soft waist. It was so small that he could hold it in his hand. She was thin and petite. Xianxia nestled in his spacious embrace and knew how to respond. The dark desire in her body was also aroused by him and rippled like a river of spring water. Suddenly, he stopped the kiss and looked up at her with a meaningful gaze. Xianxia, who was originally immersed in the endless tenderness of the kiss, stopped abruptly. "Have you learned it?" he asked in a low voice. Xianxia pursed her lips and said somewhat mockingly, "Your kissing skills are average." "Average?" Wuxia's eyes revealed a dangerous look. "Are you saying that my kissing skills are average? Don't tell me that you've never kissed any woman before me?" Xianxia asked with a sly look in her eyes. Wuxia glanced at her but did not say anything. This stupid woman. How could he admit that he had never had any woman before her? She was his only woman. Xianxia slowly caressed his lips, held his face, and gently kissed the corner of his mouth, continuing the kiss that had stopped abruptly. The temperature in the car suddenly rose. She placed her hands on his shoulders and suddenly flipped over to sit on top of him. Her enchanting and coquettish figure intimately pressed against him. Her small hands slowly moved downwards along his chest. Yun Tianyu sat in the study room. During his vacation, his tablet and phone had been confiscated by Mu Yaja. Once he got home, he switched on his computer. His inbox was flooded with emails. He was browsing through the emails when his phone rang. Yu picked up the call and heard Li Hanlin's voice from the other end. "Director Yun, your call finally got through. I thought you were missing and was so worried that I almost filed a missing person report for you." Yu's lips twitched. "I went on vacation with my dearest mommy." Vacation? Li Hanlin was stunned. It was so scary. For the past few days, he could not get through to his phone, did not reply to his messages, and did not reply to his emails. It was as if he had disappeared into thin air. "I have something to report," Yu said. Chapter 788. Li Hanlin then told him about how Yan Bingqing had been banned from the entertainment industry. Yun Tianyu interrupted him impatiently. "You don't have to tell me about this. ? What does Yan Bingqing have to do with me?" "Director Yun, Yan Bingqing was blacklisted by Huanyu because of Mu Yaja's order," said Li Hanlin. Yun Tianyu's interest was piqued when he brought it up. "But because Yan Bingqing bullied a newbie in the production team. She used a scene to slap a newbie 16 times. Bullied a newbie? Yun Tianyu tapped his fingertips on the tabletop and narrowed his eyes dangerously. Yan Bingqing slapped a newbie? An ominous feeling rose in his heart. Sure enough, he heard Li Hanlin's solemn voice say, "Rumor has it that the newbie who was slapped 16 times is your mommy. Yan Bingqing slapped her a total of 16 times. I heard that many people present saw it. However, to protect your mommy, Huanyu ordered the production team to keep it a secret, so D****. Yun Tianyu stood up abruptly and walked to the window. He clenched his fists tightly and was filled with hostility. "Why didn't you tell me earlier? I only found out about this 2 days ago. I don't pay much attention to entertainment news, so I only found out about it from the media reports 2 days ago. I tried calling you, but I couldn't get through." Li Hanlin's tone was full of guilt. Yun Tianyu bit his knuckles hard. His handsome brows furrowed deeply as he looked out of the window. His pair of clear and bright peach blossom eyes instantly emitted a piercingly cold glint. How could he be so careless? His mommy was injured, yet he only found out about it now. It could not be wrong. That Yan Bingqing must have bullied his mommy a lot in the production team. Mild concussion, subconjunctival hemorrhage, perforated eardrum. In his mind, every frightening word flashed through his mind. He had seen his mommy's medical report. The doctor said that it was an accidental injury during filming, so he was skeptical at that time. Injury? If mommy was filming martial arts, it was understandable for her to tease and injure herself. However, he had secretly glanced at the script a few times when filming a youth drama. There was no dangerous plot at all. How could mommy be so seriously injured? Could filming produce subconjunctival hemorrhage? Perforated eardrums? Yun Tianyu did not believe her. However, Mu Yaja had also said the same thing. Even mommy didn't mention it too much. When he asked repeatedly after the incident, mommy only said that it was because of an injury during filming. He never thought that his mommy would be bullied to this extent on set. His hand that was gripping the phone kept trembling, and his knuckles turned white. Li Hanlin also wanted to hide it from him. But after thinking about it, he didn't dare to do so. Yun Tianyu would find out about this sooner or later. Yun Xianxia had always been his reverse scale, his weakness. No one could touch her. If anyone dared to harm a single hair on Yun Xianxia's head, they would undoubtedly have touched the dragon's reverse scale and would definitely be enraged. Who is this Yan Bingqing? How dare you run amok in the crew so brazenly? I heard that the production team of The Green Apple has a total of 4 major investors. Other than Liji Holdings, there are 3 other powerful investors. One of the investors was Yang Shouqing. Yan Bingqing's biggest backer is Yang Shouqing. Yang Shouqing, the boss of Hong Kong's European King Entertainment. Chapter 789. Li Hanlin continued. Yan Bingqing's PR team is Yang Shouqing's former ace team under European King. They have made many A-list actresses famous, and their methods of creating hype are top-notch. Yan Bingqing's rise to fame can be said to be entirely due to Yang Shouqing's handiwork. Now, Yan Bingqing has been blacklisted by Huanyu. At least in the domestic market, Yan Bingqing has no way to make a comeback. Yu frowned. I don't care if she's blacklisted or not. If you dare to touch a strand of my mommy's hair, I won't let you off. After hanging up, Xiao Yichen suddenly pushed open the door to the study room with a murderous look. He originally wanted to enter the study room, but as he stood at the door, he heard the conversation between Yun Tianyu and Li Hanlin. He held his breath and was furious when he learned that his mommy had been slapped by someone on set. Yun Tianyu turned around and was shocked to see him. Why didn't you knock before entering my room? I was just outside the door, so I heard everything. Xiao Yichen's face turned cold. Mommy was bullied on set? Yun Tianyu turned around and coldly said, You don't have to care about this. But I'll handle this. But someone bullied my mommy. I want to avenge her. Xiao Yichen clenched his fists. Didn't you hear me? You don't have to care about this. Yun Tianyu's lips formed a cold and arrogant line as he coldly retorted. At this moment, his face no longer had the dazzling smile he had displayed in front of Yun Shirshir. Instead, it was cold and unfamiliar. His cold and stern expression made it seem as if his flesh and bones were made of ice and snow. It was frightening. Xiao Yichen was startled. His face turned cold in an instant, and the curve of his lips froze. That's my mommy. My mommy was bullied. I'm sad to. Why don't you let me care about this? Yun Tianyu frowned and turned around. Just as he was about to flare up, he caught sight of Xiao Yichen's determined expression. Glancing at his flushed face, the words that were about to escape his lips froze in his throat. I can tell you, but you have to keep this a secret from mommy. Xiao Yichen nodded. Yun Shirshir had just returned home and put the daily necessities she had bought in the storeroom. She called out loudly, You Xiao Yichen? Not long after, the two little lads pounced on her with bright smiles on their faces, each occupying half of her arms. Yun Shirshir hugged the two glutinous rice balls tightly. Mommy, you're back. Mommy, you kiss kiss. The two little balls fought to be the first to kiss Yun Shirshir's cheeks, ignoring Mu Yaja who was behind them, as if he was air. Mu Yaja deeply felt that he was being ignored. Yu suddenly asked suspiciously, Mommy, why are you back so late? Yun Shirshir's face revealed a hint of awkwardness. She subconsciously avoided his suspicious gaze and explained, Mommy went to the supermarket to buy some things. But you've been out for 4 hours. Yu narrowed his eyes, which were full of suspicion. The supermarket is very close to home. It takes less than half an hour to go there and back. It won't take 4 hours at all. Yun Shirshir's face broke out in cold sweat. She was somewhat speechless. Did Mommy secretly do something behind my back? As Yu spoke, he glanced warily at Mu Yaja behind him. His intuition was so sharp that it made Yun Shirshir blush with shame. This little guy, did he have to be so sensitive? Chapter 790. Yu, Mommy will cook dinner for you guys today, okay? Yun Shirshir smilingly interrupted him to avoid this dangerous topic. Her suggestion was met with Yu's heartless rejection. Mommy, you've just recovered from your injury, so don't go to the kitchen. Besides, the food you cook isn't as good as mine. Every time you finish cooking, the kitchen will be a mess, as if after a war. It's very tiring for me to clean up. Mu Yaja could not help glancing at her when he heard this. Yun Shirshir blushed a little at his ridicule, and the corner of her lips twitched violently. How could this rascal ruin her plans like this? Yun Shirshir helplessly sat down on the sofa. It was rare for her to show off her culinary skills, but with Yu around, she did not even have the chance to do so. She could only carry Xiao Yichen on the sofa and watch cartoons with him. Mommy, I don't like to watch cartoons. Xiao Yichen comfortably nestled in her arms and acted coquettishly. Yun Shirshir raised a brow. What do you like to watch then? Channel 7. Channel 7, Yun Shirshir fell silent. Channel 7 was a military channel, and its content was all about war and military affairs. Hence, Yun Shirshir switched to Channel 7. In the kitchen, there were flashes of knives and swords. When Mu Yaja entered the kitchen, he saw Yun Tianyou's back, who was earnestly washing the dishes. Sensing his footsteps, Yun Tianyu turned to look at him from the corner of his eyes and suddenly asked, "Daddy, what do you like to eat?" "Hm?" Mu Yaja raised a brow in surprise. When he realized that this daddy really came from the little guy's mouth, he was slightly stunned. This was the first time this little guy had taken the initiative to call him daddy. In the past, when the little guy called him daddy, he would either coerce or force him to do so unwillingly. Today, this was the first time he had taken the initiative to call him that. Mu Yaja's heart warmed, and he couldn't come back to his senses for a moment. Yun Tianyu furrowed his